Ba-da-da-da-da. Solo Spotlight, episode 93. Nick VonDub, man. Welcome back.
What's cracking, brother? I feel better today. I feel like
Yeah.
the last one I wasn't my best self, but now I got my coffee. I got my dog here, feeling good.
You're good
How
to go.
have you been, brother?
Good, man. I been pumping out episodes, getting better at interviewing, upgrading some equipment. But yeah, just living life, man. Enjoying that cold weather was starting to make me go crazy, so I'm happy it's warming up a bit. Get outside.
Get a little bit of that sunlight. Get that D.
Man. Vitamin D, man. That big D.
Gotta have it.
Yeah, last time you were on, episode 60, September 22nd last year.
What episode are you on now?
93.
93, getting close to that big 100. You got a plan?
100. I have some ideas in mind, but I find when I'm like booking guests, it's one of those things where if you book too far in advance, then you're like trying to reel them in and like, remember we were going to do this.
Yep.
And then if you book it too soon, people get cold. It's like this happy medium of like getting them and then getting them in within like a week.
Yeah.
Of being like, okay, does next week work? So a lot of my
I know all about that, brother.
And then sometimes too, I'll do like 2 or 3 interviews in 1 week. And then it's like, okay, well, now I don't have to book anything for like 2 weeks. So it's like, you're just playing this balancing act. But yeah, I think episode 100, I'm going to do something. Conversationalist is coming up on episode 100 as well. So we're looking at doing like a live event.
Nice.
So
I know a few venues.
Yeah. I was going to mention it to you later about it. But yeah, we were looking at doing like a live event, kind of like what would be like the structure around that. But yeah, big things, but the podcast world, just kind of like figuring it out.
It's a lot to figure out. What about like, there's that half of it of the booking and all those things. And that's what I find the biggest struggle with podcasting. Once you get the guests and you sit down, it's a lot of fun to do it, but there's a lot that makes it difficult to get to that point.
Yeah.
But then in the actual conversations, as he's done, I mean, if you have 2 different ones getting close to 100, that's a lot of episodes. That's when you start to settle in. What are the biggest things that you've noticed in yourself as a podcaster that you've had to adjust, or maybe feedback you've gotten, things you tried to work on? Because I remember when I first started my podcast in 2020, it those first probably year and a half, there was a lot of taking it in, a bunch of your friends listen, hey, I really like this episode, but you got to stop doing this, or you got to stop. Have you been taking in that feedback?
So what I do a lot is I'll take the transcripts of every episode. And again, I take everything from like AI with a grain of salt. Really.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is I'll like download the whole transcript of the episode and I'll put it in to like ChatGPT and be like, hey, go through the episode. Tell me like how I did, what were some good moments, and like give me a grade on it, and give me a grade of like me as a host and like my guest as a guest. So I can say like, did I do a bad job because I'm doing a bad job, or did like my guest come and like they wanted to like omit certain things, or like some of their like setups weren't that great, and not to like scapegoat anything, but then it tells me like your guest was an A+, you were a B-.
Gotcha.
And like you could have asked this when the guest said this.
Yeah.
You could have followed up with this. And like at this point, you like cut them off, or you like your setups were too long. So shit like that, where I've really started to understand what's valuable to a guest and what's like digestible, right?
Yeah.
And then giving my piece when it's like necessary, right?
For sure. Because it's tough not, like, as the interviewer, it's tough not to cut people off is one thing, but just especially, I found for myself, I loved podcasts so much, and I loved the conversations I would have. So I'd have these guests on and people would be like, oh, you didn't let them talk enough. You talk too much. It's just, I just love this shit. I get so excited and trying to find that balance where I was not overpowering the guests, just out of pure excitement, not anything.
Or even just like not having enough respect for your guests that like they understand the question you're asking. So like I would say the question and then I'd give an example and then I'd give like a follow-up, and it's like, I got you the first time.
Yeah.
But I don't need you to like fucking go on to this like 30-second
I do remember sitting here last time on a couple of your questions. I was like, this is a long question.
Like, what is he asking?
Like, I think I had it on the first crack, but now I've kind of confused on the follow-ups.
And that's more of like a trust in myself as a host to be like, okay, what I'm asking, and like I feel comfortable asking it.
Yeah.
But you want to gain that like rapport with the guest to be like, are you picking up what I'm at? Like, are we on the same page here? But it's been fun, man. I've had the pleasure of interviewing like so many different people, like people in more like professional settings, people in less professional settings, my friends, people that I met for the first time. And like, it's been just kind of like this whirlwind of, and honestly, like my biggest thing that I've changed about hosting is like every guest that I have on, I become like their number one fan before I interview them. And like, if it's an artist, I listen to their music all the time. I fucking watch everything I can. And like, I'm their biggest fucking fan. So then when I interview them, I'm like Nardwar, like just pulling shit like, oh yeah, like this song, I really liked the lyrics here. Yeah,
I'm curious what's in that sheet for me.
I was jotting things down, but that's really what I'm trying to do now is like be like the best champion for that person. So then when they come, they go, oh, this isn't just like a fucking like
time filler.
Or like this guy's just trying to get an episode out. He doesn't really give a shit about what we got going on. And don't get me wrong, like I had a girl come on, Sabrina Soto, and she was a therapeutic acupuncturist, and she worked with like she did like fertility specialization.
Damn.
And we talked about the importance of like male fertility and like awareness. But like for that, it was like
as you pull on your nuts.
Yeah. And as that, I'm like, man, like it just doesn't it doesn't resonate with me enough, but it's a good enough topic that I think I can create a conversation. But a lot of the things she was saying, I was like, I don't got a fucking clue what's going on. And I'm like looking at my skis. I'm looking at my notes like, so
how big did the needles get?
I'm like, what if someone fell off the table with all the needles? Like, do they turn into Hellraiser or like, so, but that's been the funnest part, man. I've like thoroughly enjoyed just like getting people in, hearing their stories, shooting it up. I had like some people that got like emotional. That's been like a hard, like to remain like not to like try to like, you know what I mean? Like blanket it and be like, no, it's okay. Cause like some people, they want to come on and like show that emotion and be like vulnerable. But for me to like give them that space and not like the optics outside of it of like, oh, he doesn't give a fuck about. So things like that were very like powerful for me.
Gotcha.
But yeah, man, this is about you, so I'm just gonna shut my ass up. But yeah, you came on in September last year, fucking 40 episodes ago. What do you think were some big changes that you've felt since we last kind of talked?
When was I on? Last September?
September 2025.
September 2025.
I know you guys are still at the Old Moon.
Yeah, we were still at the Old Moon. Probably the biggest like career impact was the Moon getting sold. The building that the Moon existed in, obviously the Moon as a comedy club, didn't get sold, but the building that we existed in got sold, I believe, in early January, and that was quite heavy because we had just invested so many years and so much time into so many different shows, and it was really starting to gain traction. The shows were being better attended, the quality was going up. To do comedy in a weed environment, a cannabis environment, is insanely different than a drinking environment, and it takes the comics of a scene some time to adjust to that and to figure out how to interact with crowds that are stoned, how to get a little stoned themselves, not freak out, remain confident. And all those factors were coming together and things were really cooking. All of our shows were really reaching the point that we always wanted them to, and you could feel it. You know, certain break points were being hit. comics around Canada were starting to hear about it. And then all of a sudden, with one phone call, we found out we have to move and we have to do it fast, because not only to say, yeah, it's been sold, you have to be out by this date. I think we had maybe 4 to 6 weeks from the time we found out it was sold to the time we had to have all our shit out of there. And in that moment, we knew if we didn't find some place within 2 weeks that we could close on and start moving everything over, we would have had to sell all the chairs, the tables, the stage, all that stuff would have had to be sold because we'd have nowhere to store it. And the Moon has always been a labor of love. It was never really a business. It was a place to create memories and to help artists. And it was all volunteer based, just a community of people that wanted to do something cool. So it's not like there was any backing that would help.
You could call up a sponsor and be like, hey, we're going to do, like, can I get some, like, mentorship here? How are we going to navigate this? It's like, you're basically just, like, pulling it off.
Yeah, and I don't think we ever really needed mentorship because it was a unique thing that we were doing, right? Like, if we wanted to run it as a business, we could have, but that just wasn't the ethos of what it was. The people around there were doing, like the non-comics were people like Dave and Trish that just loved the community and wanted to help in that way. It wasn't a money-making operation. But then when you get to that point where rubber meets the road, and it's like either this is getting shut down or we are taking it to the next level. And then to go around to, I don't know how many places we walked through in those couple weeks, but just all over Edmonton we went to, different kinds of buildings, downtown, north side, south side, just trying to find something that would work for what we do.
Well, the biggest question would be, can I smoke pot in here?
And was the biggest question.
And then they're like, I'll see you later.
Yeah. And
have a great day.
And a lot more people were open to it. I thought it was going to be a bigger issue than it was. I think most of the time we were very upfront about what we do. We had many years of backing showing what we do and showing that it's a beautiful community, right? Like, how many, nighttime events can you say there's never been a fight? Yeah. There's never been police called. There's never been anything, right? Like, we had a proof of concept to show people that they're more on board with, but mostly comedy requires a lot of specific things. Like, you recently came to the New Moon, you got to see it. It's not perfect for a comedy club, right? The roofs are very high. Yeah, that is very tough. Big space, but like, that was the best we could find. And you're always going to have trade-offs, right? Unless you are building a club from the ground up where you can control every aspect, every dimension, you're always going to have to make trade-offs. Yeah. But then the timeline and the restrictions of having things like, we have to be able to smoke in here and have people be okay with that, made it so we really had to scramble to find a place, but we found that place. And then it was just beautiful to see how many people came to the rescue in terms of when we said, the first couple of weeks we didn't really tell anybody. We were keeping it just within our tight circle that this had happened when we were still unsure if that was going to be the end of the Moon. Or
you don't want to call it too early.
Don't want to call it too early. And there's plenty of different people that, like myself and Trish, who is, the heartbeat of all the comedy shows that happen there. She's the one, she loves comedy. She has invested so much of her life into becoming like a comedy club owner that has value to add to comics other than just the stage, in her insights, in her, help comedically, in her guidance. And I knew she would want to do everything within her power to make sure that the Moon was there. I knew that from the second I got the tear-filled phone call. I was visiting my girlfriend in the States, and I was flying back. I was connecting through Atlanta, and I got a very panicked, tear-filled phone call saying the Moon's been sold. We don't know if we're going to be able to find a new place. This might be the end of it. And I just, tried to calm her down and say, something's going to happen. There's always Moon magic. Something will come together. We'll find a place. We'll do this. And then as soon as we hung up, I started panicking, right? Because it's easy to be strong for someone else.
And then you get off the phone, you're like, oh, shit.
Exactly. So then, as soon as I landed, I flew from New York to
testing the emergency alerts.
They're testing the emergency alerts.
Yeah.
God damn it, Steve.
No missing people yet.
Fuckers interrupting. Yeah. I know the guy who does those, and he knew I was doing a podcast, and he's doing this on purpose. I know it.
100%.
That motherfucker. But yeah, so then I flew from Atlanta because it was a cheap flight. It was stupid. So I left Manhattan, got on a bus to Newark, New Jersey, flew to Atlanta, got that phone call in Atlanta, then flew to Calgary, and then drove back from Calgary that night and went right to the Moon, met with them. And again, they hadn't told anybody, but we kind of went in the back, had some conversations, and then it was just game on from there. Everybody's looking at spaces. We're walking through. We're trying to find it. And it was really, emotionally tough times to be dealing with that because we'd invested so much. And me as a comedian too, you pick your battles. You pick where you put your investments, right? And I invested, when I first started comedy, the first two places that treated me well were the comic strip and the Moon. Right. Those are the first two. They treated me like family. A lot of times with comedy, I see a jiu-jitsu thing on your wall. Do you do
I've
jiu-jitsu?
Interviewed, this is a guy I interviewed.
Oh, okay.
But I'm very big enthusiast.
Yeah, I always, I equate it to jiu-jitsu because a lot of times people think that jiu-jitsu people can be mean, but it's not that. It's just there's a really high attrition rate. People will come out, try it for a few weeks, and then they'll leave. Yeah. And people might go, oh, nobody talks to me. It's like, well, they're waiting to see if you stick it out for the first couple months. And that same thing happens in comedy. There's a, probably like a 99.9% attrition rate. Plenty of people have tried stand-up. Very few people will continue it. That's why no matter how good a comic is, they can be, kind of ass at comedy. But if they've done it for 10 years, there's a respect level you get of like, wow, you stuck it out. Like, this shit is harmful to your mental health. It, emotionally will kick you in the teeth, and you've stayed in it. But when I first started, I found, the comic strip and the Moon were the two places that really allowed me to be myself and really supported me right from the start. Right. And I really invested in the Moon because they invested in me. They allowed me. I mean, you just got to see the craziness that is a full asylum night with. Yeah. Oh, we didn't even do the third show on that night, but like to have a place that would allow you to say, I want to do 3 shows in a night, one starting at 8, one will start around 10, and then one will start whenever that one ends, and we'll go till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Yeah. That is a crazy ask. You don't see it. But like to me as a comic, that was less than a year into comedy when I first pitched that and got the okay to do it.
It's like underground shit.
Yeah, underground shit. But like what that gave me was the ability to get stage time at a rate that would be borderline impossible for someone at my stage of comedy. Because when you start comedy for probably your first year to 2 years, some people 4, some people 5, you are doing comedy 5 minutes at a time, mostly on a draw basis where you just show up at a show, put your name in a hat, you hope you get picked, and you can do 5 minutes. And that 5 minutes is so important, and you might fuck it up, or it might be 5 minutes in front of 3 people and 10 comics. Yeah. And to be able to get a yes on an idea that would allow me to be hosting, so I'm up for 10, 15 off the top in between every comic for sometimes 6 hours, 8 hours, was like an ability to fast track your skill acquisition of that confidence that just comes with reps and time in the saddle. Yeah. So like I had invested so much into that place, and that's where I had so much more opportunity, where if this went away, that would be a huge hit to my comedy career, right?
Oh,
like it would have been...
You're talking like 20, 30 minutes easily a week.
Way more than that. Way more than that. Because at a certain time in the night, once the first 2 shows are different, we just get a bunch of comics on stage, and you'd stay up there for hours at a time just interacting. And, you're not the center of attention all the time. You're passing it off. Comics are jumping in and out. Right. And it's just kind of a wild and crazy time. But then you also got... What I liked about it was you got to get different types of experience, because the first show was a booked, paid, standard comedy show. You got to get the experience of hosting a pro show. Everybody's paid on the show. Everyone's trying. And then the second show was more of a wild and crazy open mic that, it's less professional. You want people to get a little bit crazy. You want people to heckle. You want people to get wild into the night. And that's a different feel. And then at the end of that show, it would just be riffing with a bunch of funny people in a room late at night when everyone's overtired and stoned to the bone.
Right.
And those are 3 unique experiences that will all help you get better at different things in stand-up. And I got to really take advantage of that. And while doing that, give a ton of stage time to the rest of the community too. Because that was always a big part of it, of if we're going to do a show, how can we fit the maximum amount of people on?
Right.
And we've had nights where we've probably in a night put on 35 comics.
Right.
And given them all some sort of stage time in that night. And then if they stuck around late, you can mess around and be, up there for another couple hours on top of it, which is super cool. But getting back to the move, we found this place. And like I said, over the first week or 2, we didn't really tell people. But as soon as we did say, hey, the Moon got sold, we're going to have to move, to see the community rally together of all the people that, because there's no employees, it's not really, it's all just who wants to shoulder the load, right? Of like taking this on. So then when we did admit it, so many people came through and said, okay, like, when we find a place, we have connections in real estate. Here's these places. If you need us, we flip houses and buildings. We can come walk through with you and help make sure we're looking for like structural things. A bunch of people donated their time once we did.
Like find a spot.
We had a bunch of people volunteer to come help, do what we could before we moved, because we didn't want to stop putting on shows at the old place. And one of the biggest, and this may have made it more difficult than we needed to make it, but I think it was cool and I'm glad we did it, was the Sunday show. The Sunday Smoke Show is kind of the tentpole, longest running show. It has been in many iterations. It started with Sterling Scott's house party many, many moons ago. He passed it off to a comic named Will Hannigan, who's now in the UK. He ran it for a while. And then there was a bit of kind of a turbulent time where the show never missed a week, but it kind of went downhill. It wasn't, the same love wasn't being put in. And then a change was needed. And Trish at the Moon, I finally convinced her, because I was trying for a long time, and because she was running the Friday shows with me and showed an insane aptitude and level of care for comedy that you don't see at any other show. I was like, you may not be a comedian, but you're running better shows. You're showing more attention to detail. Your instincts are better for this than 99% of the shows I see around town. Why don't you take over this?
Yeah.
Learn how to book it, right? Like, obviously when you start, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fuck shit up, but like, you will grow to be really good at this. And she stepped in and very quickly over the first, I would say 2-3 months, started running it really good, and it grew back. And in that time, I think it's 5 or 6 years of never missing a Sunday show. They've always been there. They've always done it. Christmas, New Year's, whatever. So with this change, with this venue move, they didn't want to miss one. So what we did do was we ran events all the way up until the week before. We did a Sunday show at the old place. We'd started moving. It used to be 2 rooms, like a front room, kind of a hangout room where you had board games and TVs with like a PS4, and you could play Call of Duty. And we had, all like the dab station was all out there, and the snacks, and then a showroom. Right. So we started moving all the stuff from the front room. So it was kind of empty, but we left the showroom intact so we could do a last Sunday show. And then as soon as the Sunday show was over, we had an army of our Moon regulars that showed up on that Monday. We had box trucks, and we moved everything in a day.
That's
maybe a few things me and Dave finished out later into that, after that week. So everybody moved everything in on the Monday. And then me and Dave specifically with, on different days, certain people would come in and help, but pretty much us at least 8 to 10 hours a day, we were in there building the stage, painting more things, repainting the tables, laying out the room, just everything we could to make sure that by that next Sunday in that week's time, we could put on a show. And we got it. Like, things have been done since then, but mainly like what you got to see the other day when you came was the work we did in about a week. We had done some of the painting and stuff first on like the walls. That was done in the weeks leading up to that, but we essentially recreated that club, and we tried to bring the exact same feel of the old place to the new place, right? Because it's all the same furniture. We wanted to keep the same color schemes, and it's the exact same stage. We just had to rebuild it. in there and built that big background for it.
Yeah.
And it was madness.
It reminds me of like a speakeasy.
Yeah, it's very much is like a speakeasy.
So one question before I forget.
Yeah.
Does Trish sound or look like Mitzi Shore?
I don't think she looks like Mitzi Shore.
Or sounds like Mitzi Shore.
Like, does her voice sound like Mitzi Shore? No.
5 minutes.
Yeah, no, she sounds she sounds a lot more palatable to the ear. Not to speak ill of the late great Mitzi Shore, but I think that's like
Canadian Mitzi Shore.
I think that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's something when I first started comedy, right? I had heard about the Moon, but I was hesitant for some reason. I can't remember exactly what I think honestly, just comedy was very scary. And any time you went to a new venue,
you got to feel it out.
You got to feel it out. So I drug my feet for weeks and weeks. And there was one comic in particular named Nick McQuick who was very adamant. He's like, "You're going to love the Moon. You love smoking weed. You're going to love the people. Like, go. And he kept pushing me and kept pushing me. And I don't know why I was so hesitant to go. But the first time I went, I fell in love with it. It was just like the coolest place, super laid back vibe. And then I went, and then after that, I was back there every Sunday. But at that time, it was only the Sunday show. That was the only show they did. They would do other, like, other nights they would do cannabis events, industry nights.
Well, even like one of your ones that you have in the new one is like a tea and like yoga or whatever the fuck it is, right? Which is great because you're able to use that space and provide like options for other people outside of comedy, and it kind of can keep like it's almost like a little like crutch to keep everything flowing, and you're providing that space for other people since you guys aren't using it. Yeah,
for sure. And honestly, just helps keep the lights on, right? Yeah. Comedy is not a great money-making endeavor, and if it is, like comedy, the money in comedy is off liquor and food.
Yeah.
And what two things do we not really have at the Moon? It's liquor and food, right? We got
chips.
Snacks. We got chips and snacks, but you're not making enough
to
money
sell about fucking 800 mugs to
exactly. Yeah, I got the beautiful Moon mug. Love to see that.
You guys would have to sell a bazillion mugs.
So like an industry night, where these cannabis companies have a new product launch and they rent out the room and they can smoke inside and they can do all these things. That is much more like business savvy. And you have to do everything, right? It's a community, and the events that the community wants to see, we want to put on those events.
Right.
But the true heart of it is comedy because of Trish and because she loves comedy, and that is her dream. And that's where I was going. I remember sitting down and talking to Trish for the first time when I was just going. It was probably my second or third time going there on a Sunday. And just after the show, we sat down and we started talking, and I was obsessed. Before I ever started stand-up, I was obsessed with podcasts and Joey Diaz and Ari Shaffir and Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer. I was like fully engrossed in that world and had so much love for them. And then when I started stand-up, I thought everybody was going to be like that. And then I realized that most comics, I don't know why, I think it's just like a be cool thing. They go, "Oh, fuck Joe Rogan, Bert Kreischer's a hack. Like, I hate all these people." And I was like, "Oh, I freaking love these guys. Like, I guess you guys hate them, whatever." But then I found someone that also loved the podcast or loved the Bonfire, was the biggest Big J and Dan Soder fan. And we just clicked on that. And, she's such a unique person. She's very easy to open up to and to have like deep conversations. She's very curious, and she'll kind of pull that out of you. So very quickly, I was telling her about my dreams with comedy and podcasting and how I want to change the industry. I want to change Canadian comedy. I want to do all these things. And she never once like poo-pooed it or said you can't. She was like, "Oh, that's good. That's awesome. Like, you should." Yeah. And then I was able to get that out of her of like what she wanted to do. And, she was I think if I had to guess, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I imagine it would have been a bit of imposter syndrome where she really wanted to be that Mitzi Shore type. She was just obsessed with all this, but didn't ever see herself on stage, but she loved being around it and supporting it. And seeing that kind of Mitzi Shore role was something that didn't really exist in Edmonton. It doesn't really exist very many places, right? Like there's the lady from the Denver Comedy Works. She pops to mind as someone. I'm forgetting her name off the top of my head.
There's like
bookers that have that kind of impact, but that really insert themselves into the comedy scene and do everything within their power to aid and help bring comics to the next level. And sometimes that's being kind of harshly honest with him
Yeah.
about certain things, right?
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I just thought like, oh, well, if that's your dream and this is my dream, it seems like we can do a lot of great work
Yeah.
together. And then ever since then, we started running shows. The Moon grew to be a true comedy club because it was just like a cool underground space, speakeasy that had one comedy show a week.
Right.
And now it's grown to have a ton of amazing comedy shows, to be one of like the preeminent places for comics that are coming through town to want to pop in and do sets at. It has had shows start there, grow, and then go on to be at like the comic strip, for example. We've had many different, and
Yeah.
it all kind of comes from that journey. Like the fact that you brought up Mitzi Shore is apropos for what the journey is. I think people are probably always hesitant to throw something like that out because that is hallowed ground, right? Like that's the goat of what she did, right? To like put yourself on that pedestal is a little bit probably yucky in some people's heads, but it's something to attain, to pursue. Of like, I might not ever be there, but that's the template of what I would love to do.
And it's interesting because I've said this over like multiple episodes to people, is like, the biggest problem with people doing anything is like identifying with it. Like whether you want to be a world-class carpenter, whether you want to be a podcaster, whether you want to be stand-up, whether you want to be like a motivational speaker. The problem is like, it's always, oh, when can I get to be them? And when can I get to be them? But it's like, yo, at the moment, like, and it took me a long time to realize this, but it was the moment you hit record, well, you're a podcaster, bitch. Like that's how it is.
Bitch.
And then unfortunately, that's how you have to like do it with yourself, right? Of like, okay, the first time you run a show, okay, you're booking comedy
You're a
shows,
showrunner now.
right?
And that is something that like comedy's hard enough to do. Like comedy is one of the most insanely difficult things any human can try to attempt. And I know that sounds cocky because it's what I do, but like people don't understand. It looks easy, but it's very, very difficult. And then show running is this whole other beast that is honestly about equally as difficult. And if you want to do it well, takes so much of like your heart and your care. Like it's easy to throw on a shitty open mic at a bar that nobody really cares about. You don't have to really, if people don't show up, who cares? But to try and consistently put on a good product that you stand behind
and not step on the other comics' toes.
And not, impossible.
Like,
you're always going to step on other comics'
toes. As a host, though, like when I was talking to Jamie Randall, he said like he said like the biggest thing as a host is like to not like steal anybody's stuff. Like you want to make sure the show's continuing to go and like the energy's high.
Yeah.
So when people come on, like you don't want to make it like this big like buffer of like, oh, he was really funny, and then this guy comes on and he said like the biggest thing as a host is like even people who didn't have the best set, had a great set, you always like, hey, good set, go on, like things like that of like keeping it going.
And there's three different things. There's stand-up comedy, there's show running that I was talking about, and then there's hosting, which is what you're talking about.
Right.
Those are three very distinct things that are difficult in their own ways. Like for hosting, that's exactly what makes it difficult. But like if you're show running and hosting, that's a whole other beast, right? There's things that go show running, but to jump on hosting, because I love hosting, I'm very passionate about it. I've had plenty of conversations with Jamie about hosting, and there's so many factors that go into it because that is your role, is to keep the energy going. But the weird thing for people, like Jamie has hosted a lot, he understands hosting. But for most people, when they get their first couple opportunities to host, because like I said, in your first couple of years, you're lucky to get, a couple 5-minute spots a week. That's what you're like, you're scratching and clawing with 150 other comics for those little 5-minute spots. You're lucky to get a few in a week. Hosting is very important to a comedy show. Usually there's a couple good hosts and they'll get all the opportunities.
Right.
And it's hard to get your crack at it. But then when you do get your crack at it, whether it's, on like the Pro-Am night at the comic strip, or maybe you got to host the Grindstone open mic, all of your instincts that you've built up from comedy are backwards, right? Like if someone goes out and has a great set and then you have to go up after, your instincts as a comedian is, the crowd is hot. I want to do time. I want to have fun.
Right.
But that's the wrong instincts. As a host, your job is to get the fuck out of the way. he did great. One more time for this guy. All right, give it up for the next guy. It's when someone does bad, and it's really awkward.
Back up.
You've got to go up there, do some time, try and bring the room back together. But as your instincts as a comic is, oh, that was bad. He bombed. I'm gonna bomb. I'm just gonna bring the next guy up.
Yeah.
So it completely inverts, and you have to like fight all of your instincts and remain logical about the task at hand if you want to be a good host.
Yeah.
Plenty of people host and they're terrible at this, and they do the exact opposite of what I'm saying, and there's no consequences, and that's just the way it goes.
Do you think at some point, like, say for you, for example, I asked Jamie the same question of like, at some point it must become like a fork in the road, because the more you get opportunities hosting, the less you're working on like your minute or your 15 or your 5. And then you don't have like a really tight set because you just haven't had the time to work through it because you're doing so many hosting gigs.
Yeah.
And like, is there at some point you have to make a decision, okay, am I going to work on this? Or like, because he said at some points he would relinquish the hosting job to do the headliner because then he could do like a full 30 or a full 15 and kind of that time management, or like what you're like, because he said hosting pays. Being like doing stand-up or doing your sets doesn't really pay. So like ideally I'd want to get all these hosting gigs, but he's like, I want to do an hour. So where do I go from here? And I only have so much like opportunities in the week.
For sure. I think there is a bit of a delineation. The way I like to look at it is you're getting different skills, and it's something like when you host, you pick up completely different skills than you would if you're only doing sets, because you have different responsibilities. Your understanding of the show, like what is on your shoulders, is much different, right? Like I can do completely different material. If I'm going up for a 10-minute set, I can be kind of crazy. I can take some big swings, because if I fuck it up, I'm gone. They don't ever see me again on that night, right? Like it's not that big of a deal. If you go up as a host and you make it fucking weird, you have to go back up there every time, and it trains different skills. You have to be aware of how to reset energies, which I think is amazing skills to take back into just stand up, right? Like I go to shows all the time where it's a dog shit show. Like everybody's bombing. It got so weird and nobody addressed how weird it got, and it just digs and digs and digs. And then you're about 9th or 10th on the lineup. But because I've hosted so much, I'll go up there and be like, okay, I have 10 minutes. The first 5 minutes of my set are going to all be hosting. I've already identified, okay, this group came in only 20 minutes ago. They've only seen a few comics and they're having more fun than the rest of this group because they haven't sat in the awkwardness. I'm going to go up. I'm going to go right to them, communicate with them, be like, oh, you guys are having fun because you didn't sit through the rest of this dog shit show. Like, I'm happy you guys are here, right? You get a good laugh out of them. It kind of breaks the rest of the room a little bit. They see a positive interaction. Then you go around, you address some of the weird things in the night. And the one I'm thinking of, there's one guy who was way too over heckly. He was just excited. He wasn't, trying to cause a problem. He was just very overexcited.
Yeah, some people think it's fun.
So beforehand, I was standing there and he looks at me and goes, oh, are you going to talk to me? I said, oh, I fucking got you, brother. Like, you're going to get it or whatever. Like, interact. So he knew it was coming. But I went and I talked to every single person in the room but him, right? Let everybody have a good time because they were all annoyed at this guy. He doesn't know that the whole other room is annoyed by him interrupting and like kind of wrecking it for the room. He thinks he's the star of the party, right? So then you talk to everybody, you get the room on, and then you go, all right, now what do you got, dude? Like, I know you've been itching to talk the whole time. Now everybody finds it funny. He's brought back into the room. And that all happens in about 5 minutes of just riffing. I'm not really doing material. I'm just fucking around. Yeah. And then I have the whole room and I go, okay, now can I do some jokes? Yeah. And then do 5 minutes of jokes.
Right.
But that's because I'm a host. But you watch so many shows that just nobody takes that on. Because as a comic, I don't want to have to host the show. I've got my jokes I want to work on. Like, I totally get why people don't do it. But to me, I grew up playing team sports.
Right.
I was a hockey player. I look at a show like we're all on the same team. It is our goal to win this game, and win this game is to make the show be as good as possible so these people in this room want to come back and see comedy again. Mm-hmm. That is my...
And at some point, paying money.
Exactly.
Right? Because that's a big thing, too. Like, you look at where we're at today in the world, like, it's a huge ask to have people cough up anything. So there has to be like a value there where you're like, okay, whether it's production, whether it's like the tightness of it, where people are at. It's like it no longer becomes
how
like
they're greeted at the door.
We're fucking around. Like, it is what it is. Because people are going to be like, I'm not paying for this shit.
Exactly.
Like, it's a fucking joke.
Exactly. And sometimes when you're fucking around and it's wild and crazy, those can be really fun nights that people have a great time. They go, oh, I want to come back to this. But then they'll come again and they'll see it where, you know, the magic doesn't all line up and it doesn't click and it's a weird one. And they're like, oh, I'm never seeing that again.
Right.
Right? Like, I think if you put on a really, really solid, funny comedy show, you have like a chance to make that person come see comedy again on a smaller timeline. But that might be taking it from like, oh, maybe in the next couple of years, they'll check out another show. Maybe you can get them in the next 6 months.
Right.
Right? Like if you put on, because I always talk about it with magic, right? Because, you know, you book a show. You know the comics on the show, you know the material they do, you know what kind of caliber of laughs.
And you as you, like not as the audience.
Yeah, me. Like when I'm booking a show, when I'm show running and or hosting it, I know what like a baseline kind of on the low end, if it kind of gets weird, but like how the skills that this group of comedians that are on this show have to keep it out of the gutter and on track enough to have it be a decent show. And then the high end of like if everybody's, you know, kind of ripping and feeling it and the vibes are good of how good it can be.
Yeah. If it's bad, it's going to be this bad. If it's good, it can be really good.
Really. And then where you fall in that of like, that's always where I'm trying to book my shows and run shows is to give us the best chance of being closer to that high end, because the closer, like with the comics you book, the order you put them in and the amount of time you give each comic, that all is going to impact how good that show can be, right? But if you get it onto the higher range, like maybe, you know, in the top 50 percentile and the bottom 50 percentile of that show, how you structured it, if you can keep it in that top 50%, you have a chance for the magic to happen.
Right.
For some weird crowd interaction, for someone to fuck up a bit but pull something out, or something happen that day where it is magic to that night and that night only. It is something that happened in the air that just makes you laugh in a different way that isn't just your setup punch, you know, like that can be great too. And for that magic to be available, people have to be rocking and rolling with their set, you know, just doing their material and doing well, because that creates an environment where that magic can happen. But like, I think that that's what you're pursuing, is for some moment in your show, in that 90 minutes that your comics are on stage and you are on stage as a host, for something magical to happen in that night where people go, I need to come see it again. And now it's not 6 months, a year, I'll come check out another show. They're having so much fun that they want to grab their friends and they want to go see another comedy show in the next couple weeks.
Right.
And that is so difficult. And on the flip side of it, it's so easy to fuck it up and have people go, not only am I not going to see a show in a couple of weeks, I'm never going to comedy again.
You basically hired a bunch of magicians and they all pull the bunny out of a hat.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
It's
now, when you're booking people, is there like this barometer of like, okay, this guy has light comedy, this guy has dark comedy, this guy might be too political for these guys, because like it's just not gonna. Because you saw like the headliner, it was like that guy was more dry, where you had the guy that was pacing around the stage and like laughing at his own jokes. He's like because he's so fucking high.
Yeah.
And then you had the chick that was like screaming into the fucking mic.
Yeah.
Where it was like a good balance of like you're getting different personalities. So is that like a level, and is there any like guardrails where you're like, okay, this is the type of show I curate.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put any political fucking bullshit, or I'm not going to have someone that does like gay jokes all the time, or whatever it is. Like, does that sort of culminate?
For sure. Well, that's a great question, because when you ask that of me, yes, of course, I meticulously go over it of like the energies and how, not just like who you have on the show, but the order you put them in and the amount of time you give them, right? Because some comics, you know, in a 5-minute spot, they might be quite harsh and abrasive, but if you give them a longer where people can get on board with them,
they can smooth it out.
Yeah, like Uncle Hack, I think you had it all.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he is a very unique comic with what he does, and he's getting better and better all the time. But he's one of those guys where if you give him enough time, no matter how rank he wants to be on how crazy his jokes are.
Sam Walker,
right? But if you give the crowd enough time to understand the thing they're doing and get on board with it, and like almost have to like it almost takes 5 minutes because they're set up like, oh, he's talking about things that I don't like, but it's really funny. But it almost takes them some time to like begrudgingly start to laugh. And then once you, even if someone really doesn't
to love it.
Yeah. Even if someone really doesn't want to laugh at something, if you're funny enough, you can break them.
Yeah.
Right. And then the laughter you can pull out of them after, it's like, fuck, I don't even want to be laughing.
You get the groans like that.
Yeah.
You know
the groans,
I mean? Like,
right? But yeah, I put a lot of thought into what type of comics I'm booking. I always think of a bunch of things like, what type of comic are you? I want to have some sort of mix of different things for different people, because I know, especially at the Moon, where you're going to have a bunch of very different minded people that are all brought together around this one thing, which is the Moon community, but vastly different people. Some people like the rank stuff. Some people like, cutesy shit. So you've got to book that. And then like my biggest thing when I book a show is, in my estimation, how good they are as a comic, of like their strength level of like how funny and how consistent they can be. That's my number one thing. When I'm booking shows, I call the same 6 people almost first every time, knowing I'm going to get a no. I call Sterling Scott all the fucking time to book him. He's so busy, touring all over. He's out of the country. He's all over the place that 99% of the time it's a no. But if I can get Sterling on a show, I'm always going to have Sterling on my show. Same with Brad Semituk, right? Like another guy, like if he's around, I am booking that kid because he's so fucking funny. And if I can get him, right, like whether I got a Brad or a Sterling, that might dictate how I book the rest of the lineup, because now I'm going to get different things with them. But there's, a group of probably 5 or 6. Mike Damber, another one, I'm always asking him. He's so busy that you only get him on certain ones, but I start from the top and then you have your next batch, right? And so I'm booking on strength of comedy first, then filling it in with whatever else.
Like you're captain of the team, and then it's like, oh, okay, like this guy's energy's here, so I can kind of plug away, and I know who will match well with this guy's Now,
but where I was going with that is, that's how I do it. People don't book shows like that. There's very few that book shows like that. Most people book who are my friends,
or who's popular,
who can get me other shows, who can get me on stage there, what's going to be a good connection, who do I owe favors to, who has booked me. And that is way more common. When you look at lineups for most showrunners, that's what goes into it. It's less so what they think a good comedy show is, or this person has bugged me and bugged me and bugged me. I might not even think they're that good, but I have to give them a spot because I feel bad. Right? Which I also do.
Right.
But I try not to. I try to hold myself to certain standards of what I want to my show. And then obviously I'm going to prefer my friends, right? Like that's naturally going to happen. Sometimes a little favor. Hey, this guy did this thing for me, or they've been really supporting the venue. They've been really kind to people. They've gone out of their way. I'm going to give them opportunity. That stuff does come in. But I think what I see is a lot of people just let that dictate everything with their booking. It's just purely,
well, then you have
what can I get?
Giving so many people favor cards to hand in.
Yeah.
It's like there's not enough time. And now you're pissing off other people because they're owed whatever.
For sure.
Then it's like you're just sinking a ship, right?
And comics are heinously petty and jealous and ego-filled.
So let's get into that, because I find that so interesting.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about like the identity thing, is the identity that a comic goes on stage the same identity that, like, how many comics do you interact with where they go up and you're like, this guy's not that much of an asshole? Or you're like,
where they're doing a character on stage?
Where you're like, how many times does a comic in their starting years get in this identity crisis of like, am I going to be me? Or am I going to be
all
like
of them,
this persona, or like I'm going to go up there and I'm going to be like cocky dickhead, but in reality I'm the most agreeable person. I say yes to everything.
Yeah, I think that's a tightrope that everyone walks when they start comedy, right? Like, I think, and you can battle that. Like, I really like genuine comics who are as close to themselves on stage and being genuine. And I believe that comes, I think, also when we talk about the difference between a drunk audience and a weed audience. I think weed audiences weed out in disingenuousness super quick. Right. If you're faking the funk up there, if you're playing a character, unless you're a guy like Mike Damber, who has headlined for 40 fucking years, has done everything in comedy up and down, and he portrays a character on stage. It's obviously a bit of himself, but it's way dialed up where he's super aggressive, like mean to people, but he's a very nice guy off stage. Like, that is a clear character, but he has perfected that character over 40 years. So it doesn't come across as disingenuous to people. If you know him as a person, you can tell like where he's really dialing it up. But then there's moments on stage, it's like, oh, that's you, Mike. Like, that one wasn't the character. But that's because I know him very well and I can start to see those things. But then you have comics that start comedy, and it's so hard to explain to people because it's such a unique thing that there's not a lot of like through lines with other things in life like this. But when you get up on stage in front of a room of people and you try to be yourself and you bomb and you have this like ultimate negative, embarrassing, like
I'm a loser.
Yeah, it's like it's so brutal that like your ego will naturally protect you. A lot of times the characters people develop is just, they're not even fully conscious of it. They're just, what will get me away from this negative feeling I'm feeling on stage? And that is only amplified when you're being really real and you bomb is awful.
Do you find that turns into crowd work? Like when people bomb? Because it's like, when you talk about this like ego shift, it's like, then instead of me like selling my jokes, I have to then be like, yo, fat boy.
For
like,
sure.
You know, because then you're like, oh, it's not on me. And like everybody thinks like, you know, this is a funny joke or whatever it is.
You'll see every comic has defense mechanisms and everyone is different. Like that's a good example for me. Like I think sometimes when I'm bumming, like I love to just ditch this as like, okay, I'm just going to talk to the crowd. I'm going to fuck around. Like exactly what you said. But a lot of comics will never go into, like if they start bombing, they go into disassociation mode. You'll watch them. Their eyes disconnect from the crowd. They're looking up at the back of the room. They're not looking at anybody. They are just like, I know how to do this material. I know that they're almost doing like a theater act.
Right.
Where they're emotionally and like their ego has left their body. Yeah. They're not feeling whatever's going to happen. They are just going to say the words like they've said them before and get through their time till they see that light and they're going to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
And that I think is way more common. Like you'll see that where people will just fall into their, you know, tried and true. Cause then they don't have to, like, the other side of it is now they get to go, oh, these jokes have worked with other audiences before. It was just that audience. They just didn't like.
Do you think that people get like amnesia too, where it's like they go up there and then you're like, hey, you said like this like Hitler joke or something. They're like, I didn't say that. And then you're like, no, man, like, and it was pretty like fuck.
Yeah. Like, I don't know about amnesia. Like I had sometimes I say crazy shit on stage that like, it's not where I don't remember saying it or like, I don't remember saying it, but when someone brings it up, it's like, oh yeah, I did definitely say that. Like, it's not that level of dissociation where you don't even know. Like I remember,
or you just go, I can't believe I fucking did that.
Yeah. Like this happened to me the other day. There was a show and one of my like good friends, like a comic I love, like a good buddy of mine went up and had a bit of a tough set. And I went up after and did the hosty thing, you know, did some jokes, got him back. And I went, okay, now you guys are back. Like, let's go bring up the next guy. And I got off, didn't think about didn't even clock that I said that. Cause like, that's a rude thing to say about your friend, right? Yeah. Like you're kind of saying like, oh, he saw you didn't like him kind of thing, which I think as comics, you just have to be okay. If you didn't do good, the next comic should call you out for that. Like it's helping the room, but it wasn't very kind. And I didn't even clock that I did it. Cause like, I don't regret that I did it, but what I should have done is gone right up to that comic after and gone,
like,
my bad, brother. Yeah. Right. But I didn't even clock. And then I was talking to another comic, another one of my buddies, and he just said like, hey, and he was really nice about it. He's like, can I give you some constructive criticism? I said, oh yeah, of course. And he just said, he's like, at the end of your set there, when you got him out, you said, hey, I got you back now. How do you think that made so-and-so feel? I was like, fuck, I did do that, hey? And he's like, yeah. And I, you know, messaged him and said, like, there's shit like that. But where the real dissociation happens, it's not, oh, I didn't say that. That rarely happens. But what happens is you get these delusional people that will go up and have the most awkward, cringy, like show-stopping bad set. And they'll come off and go, oh, it was okay. That was pretty good.
Killed it.
Yeah, like some people think they did great. Like the level of detachment from reality you see in comedy is really wild. Cause like I bombing is part of it. Doing bad is part of it. That's how you get better. But the only thing I look for is how aware of you are you about what happened on the stage? Because if you lack that awareness to know you sucked, you're gonna stay shitty.
Well, and it's hard because it's so subjective too, where it's like, oh, like that statement that you said where it's like, oh, well, this hits in other crowds. It's like, okay, well, is the joke actually funny then? Or were you full of a room with drunk people?
That's exactly it.
And then you dropped the line and people were like, laugh track.
Yep. Like, and that's it. That's exact. You nailed the nail on the head there. That's exactly what it is. People will come up with these like not that funny things that are, kind of passable, but it fits the formula of
and then you go
setup
like
and punchline.
What?
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, and some people you'll see, like when I talked about defense mechanisms, right? Like I said, like sometimes I use crowd work at that. Sometimes people use that dissociation. A ton of people start laughing at their own jokes to cover up that people aren't laughing at. That's another one. There's like probably 5 or 6 really like well-trodden defense mechanisms that you'll see out of comics. And if you go see a lot of comedy, you'll start to like pick it out. But yeah, no, the laughing at their own jokes,
but it's almost like you're collecting like infinity stones in a way, because you're able to see these different things and go like, all right, take that, put it in my back pocket. Like I know what maybe I don't know what I need to do, but I know what definitely not to fucking do.
Yeah, and the difficult part is it's so much easier to see it in others than to see it in yourself.
Yeah.
When you're the comic on stage, there is a level of like you can't see it. That's why filming and watching your sets is so monumental, which I don't do.
Right.
Full hand up. I never do it. But I know but I have people I trust, right? Like Trish will be pretty honest with me sometimes about shit that I'm doing on that I have nowhere. Like there was a while where I was struggling for a couple weeks, and it was, like I know the deep causes of it was mental health, right? Like I struggle with my mental health. I knew I wasn't doing very good, but she kind of, before one show, she's like, "Can you smile tonight?" And I was like, "What?" Like, she's like, "You haven't been smiling." She's like, "I think you think you're smiling, but you're not." And I was like, you have that initial kind of like ego, like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" But then, you fight that back and you go, okay, well, maybe there's something there. And I went up that night with that consciously in my head, smile, like kept reminding, smile, have fun, and fixed me right up. And she noted, like, after I came off for my first 15 minutes off the top or something, she goes, "You were smiling." And I say, "Yeah, I was trying to." And she's like, "Did you notice the difference?" Of course I did, right? Like once, but if she had not said that, I would have kept banging my head against the wall, not making that change because I didn't see it. Now I could solve that myself by filming all my sets and watching them, but I hate technology. Like if I could hire somebody to come film all my sets and just like have them on, like just have like an unlisted YouTube page that I could watch them all, like that would be the dream, maybe one day. But yeah, there is a lot of things where I think that's something that I really invested heavily in when I started comedy. Was not only just going out to all the draws and trying to get your little 5 minutes like everybody else, but also I would go every weekend, one night, if not 2, for both of the shows, like 2 shows Friday or 2 shows Saturday, sometimes a whole weekend. And I would watch. And I would watch from the start. I'd watch how the hosts got the show going. I'd watch how the guest spot did, how the middle act did, and then watch the headliner. Looked for tricks, looked for things I hated, like all those little tells and those dissociations and those ego mechanisms to not feel the bomb and to get through that time without, wanting to kill yourself, which is supernatural, and I totally get it, but it's like, oh, I don't want to do that. So arming yourself to it and just like understanding that as a concept, I found really helped me get better, not only for myself on stage, but for understanding how to put on shows, how to host, how to show run, how to like make an atmosphere. Because like, we've talked a bit about comedy, we've talked a bit about hosting, but there's also this thing of show running that is fascinating to me. Like the experience of a customer is not kept to the 90 minutes from when the first person comes on the stage to when the last comic finishes.
Like the moment they get in the door.
The moment they get in the door, right? Like, so we would notice at the Moon, this is just something naturally we did on Fridays, right? For the big Asylum, Gen Pop, and Panopticon shows that's going to go all night. We would be there probably 2 in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon, getting ourselves in the right mindset, getting excited, talking about the show, talking about like the lineup order, making sure we haven't missed anything, any detail that could make the show better tonight, right? Like really getting into state, having good music on, being happy to be there. Usually some of our like more regular attendants would show up a little bit before doors. You give big hugs. And then as soon as doors open, I would usually go, I haven't done this as much, but I used to have a good practice where I would go for 20 minutes, meditate in the back, just, put on some meditation sounds, do 20 minutes of just breathing, empty my mind. And at the end of it, it started as a gratefulness practice, kind of morphed at some point into like a bit of a prayer of just saying thank you for everything that I value. Like I'm thankful that I get to do this thing. I'm thankful for Trish and Dave and the Moon for allowing me to do this. I'm thankful for my parents for believing in me and my sister and like all my good friends, and just like all this positivity practice to just put myself in a really good mindset. And then I would play some sort of hype up song. It's evolved over the times, but just something that really gets me going. And then just like personal to you of just like reminders, like mindset stuff of like, you've put a lot of time in this. You're really good at this. You're going to have fun. Because it's scary. Every time it's fucking scary. And you have to kind of fight that fear and turn it into excitement. And like, I found a lot of those like self-talk practices of just, you've worked really hard for this. You deserve this. You're going to have so much fun. You're going to go out there. You're going to be confident. And you're going to find moments like, even if you're questioning the material, you will find something in this room with this group of people that will be really funny, and you will set them up to have a good time. And then go out. And that's when you start meeting people, right? So like our doors would be at 7, show starts at 8, and everybody coming into the door. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Like, this is the movie. It's your first time. Oh, thanks for coming again. You guys have been to a bunch of shows. Like, we appreciate it. Like we love doing comedy. We can't do it without you. Welcoming everyone in, making sure they have everything they need. Do you need weed? Do you need this? Do you need snacks? Create that comfortability, especially when I'm hosting, because now they have that piece. For a lot of people, comedy is scary, right? You're going into this room. You don't know if you're going to be talked to. You've probably heard things. You've seen like clips online.
Yeah, you're like, don't sit in the front row. Don't sit in the front row.
Yeah. But for a comedy show, you need people to sit up front. If a room seats badly, the show can be fucked before you even start. It doesn't matter how good of comedians you have on. If like
too much space.
Too much space. You need the bulk of the people to be at the front. And one or two people seated differently can make a huge difference on a show, right? Like the show you recently came to, the fact that you were willing to sit on one of those like wing chairs.
I fucking loved it.
But those are the two hardest chairs in that entire room to fill, because they're right at the front, and it's like...
Well, and not only that, you're at like an egress route. So then what happens is, and for me, like I'm a big like personal space. So then people are like going in their alleyways, and you're sitting there like this while like 4 chicks are having a conversation and their backs to you, and they're like, oh, sorry. And you're like, why don't you just take your fucking seat, lady? And it happens so often because people are coming on and off the stage, this and that.
But that's how, stuff like that is something that we have toyed with. Like, if you would have seen the old space, the showroom itself, like the front room stayed very static. How it was set up, where the TVs were, everything, nothing really changed. That showroom changed all the time. We're always tweaking. How can we move stuff? How can we encourage people to sit up front? How can we put more of the uncomfortable chairs in the back? Like, how can we do this? How can we change, like you say, egress routes? How do we make this better? Because it's so important. But a lot of times, if you're just running a show at a bar, they don't give a fuck.
No.
Right? Like, they're not going to go make their staff do extra.
Or they're not going to move the tables around. They're going to be like, here you go.
Make do.
Okay, quick break for fucking piss and beverages, and then we'll be back. All right, we're back.
We're back, baby.
So yeah, it's interesting you're talking about like bars and stuff, because it's like, it's one of those things where it's business and you have to get those things going. Yep. But it's also like you have. I'm almost wanting, like, I didn't want anybody to talk to me, but I also could enjoy, like, I could appreciate that it's like a mechanism of what's going on. But like my personality, I'm like
you didn't want like the comics to talk to you from the stage. Yeah.
Like, and if like, even when you like, were like, hey, this guy here like brought the weed and everything, it's like, okay, thanks. Like,
but me as a host, I could feel that, like, right. Like, I didn't know, because you were willing to sit, like, a lot of things that crossed my mind in that moment of like, you were willing to sit up front, but like, I wasn't getting the vibe that you really wanted to interact. But that was my kind of, that was like a shot across the bow to try like a very non-committal thing of just like bringing some attention to you. Yeah, but I could tell by your reaction, oh, you don't want to be interacted with. And that's something I really take, like, even if I'm not hosting, if I'm just on a show, I'm watching that show to see who's those people that want the attention, who wants to speak up, who wants to be a part of the show.
The guy beside me,
he
would shut the fuck up.
But then I also know that he's also like, I don't want to talk to either of you two, because you don't want to be talked to. He wants to be talked to too much, and could become a problem.
But hey, it's probably that like fine balance where it's
Sure.
like, oh, this guy wants to play games. Like, okay, cool. And then it almost gets to the point where you're like, yeah, now this guy's doing too much.
Yep.
Like now he's like playing fuck around.
Right. Which is, and the weird thing is it's oftentimes less so of like enough or too much. It's timing, right? Because you can be very animated. It's when you start doing it and you're interrupting what the comic is doing on stage when they're clearly in the middle of something they're trying to get to, and you interrupt that. And
well, I saw that when you talked about your trip in Ontario, and then the person's like, "Did you go to the fucking blood room?"
Yeah.
And you're
what?
And I'm like, but you did like, but it was very like nonchalant, where you're like, "Oh fuck, like why didn't you tell me before?"
Yeah.
Right, and then it was like you were able, but it was like
I knew that person,
right,
and they know that I don't mind being interrupted, like.
But you were in the middle of a premise,
for sure,
and it was like
bad timing.
Where
and that person
was I?
and that person knows better. That's why I still handled it with kindness, because a thing a lot of people don't understand is when you're on the stage with a microphone and you interact with a singular person, you are not just interacting with that singular person. They are a proxy for like audience being spoken. If you speak to a person in a way that is unkind, it shuts down the entire room because they go, "Oh, that could have been me."
Yeah.
Right? Like they want to see it handled. If like crowd interaction is such, I love the psychology of it. It's one of my favorite things. I love doing crowd work. I love playing with a room full of people. It's one of my favorite things. But like I watch people do it poorly and they don't understand this of like, yeah, this guy might be being a dickhead and like might need to be talked to, but you have to understand how you handle him is being seen by the whole room and is going to affect the whole room, right? Like, so in that moment, yeah, that was, and I remember that, and that was an interruption. I was trying to do a bit. I was trying to go into something, and it did kind of derail it. But I knew the person. I knew I just had to handle it, stay positive, because if you get rattled, like, oh, I was trying to do this fucking joke, like he interrupted me, it makes the room turn.
Yeah,
right?
You're like, can I get back to my fucking joke?
Exactly, which you will hear that statement 3 times a comedy show.
But sometimes, too, what I find is that the same way you're talking about shutting down a room, sometimes comics actually invite more people to talk, where you're like, this isn't a fucking Q&A.
Yeah.
Like, you shut the fuck up. You shut the fuck up. Like, and this isn't question period.
And that's like something I try to take in, like, especially when I'm hosting. I will say off the top, I don't know if I did it on that night, but like for sure, if I'm hosting at the comic strip where people are getting drunk, there can be 300 people in a room. I say, like, do not talk. If a comic wants to talk to you, they'll make it very clear. They will look you in the eye. They will ask you a question. You're free to respond. Please try not to yell shit out. But if you have to yell shit out, do it while I'm up here. I can handle it. I don't mind it.
You're just buffer time.
Right? I'm just buffer time. But then at the end of my set, before I bring up the first comic, I always go, reminder, man, we had some fun here. That's my role. I'm the host. But while these comics are on stage, please try to be respectful, not yell things out during their jokes. And you set that. You're setting guidelines. That's another big role of the host, right? Of like how to set the tone, because for a lot of people in any given comedy show, a good chunk of that room, it's going to be their first ever live comedy show, which is so weird, right? Like, like you go to a concert, usually people, it's not like, there's probably some people where it's their first concert, but it's a very small percentage. In comedy, there's always like, it can be upwards of like 50% of the room. This is their first time ever seeing live stand-up. They don't know what the rules are. And sometimes you can see it, like, you'll see these comics come up from like, there was one comic named Lucas Zelnick. He's a comic out of New York. He's come through the comic shop a few times. Really nice guy. But I remember the first time he came up, I was talking to him before the show. And, younger kid, has a big online following, is really good with social media. And he was telling me, he goes, yeah, like my shows are usually pretty unique because I have such a big following online that a lot of times it's younger, his demographic like, was, kind of
kids wilding out.
Kids wilding out, and they're not acting out of pocket on purpose. They've just never been to a comedy show. They don't know how to interact. And he brought that up before the show. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I got to watch it throughout the show. There were so many people that like were trying so hard to give the comics what they wanted and trying to be a part of it. And it was like fun to watch.
Some people see it as support. Like some people,
almost all,
like,
all of them.
If I'm like
very rarely is there a true asshole that wants to fuck shit up.
Right. It's someone that just wants you to have fun.
Yeah. And they want to be a part of it.
And you just don't get it. Like you're not where I am, right? Like that's, yeah. But it's a hard, it's a hard balance because you're like, how much of this environment am I creating myself, and how much of it has any like, because the buck stops at you, right? Like you like, I look like Avatar, where it's like you're literally doing this the whole time, and it's like you can easily drop the ball, and then it's like they're assholes because they're heckling. You're just being too nice, and not like spinning it. So like, nut up, like tell these guys to fucking pipe down, or go fuck yourself.
But a lot of comics are bad hosts, and they don't do that. Like, I go to shows all the time where you can tell the show is going to go sideways because of like what's happening in the room and not being addressed. During the first, I'm going to say the first 3 comics, if people start chattering in the room and nothing, and it's not addressed, right? Like, it's very difficult to stop mid-bit and address something in the room.
Yeah.
But it's something you just have to get skilled at. And that's something that, like, not to toot my own horn, but I think I'm pretty good at, of like, whether I'm hosting, whether I'm doing a set, if some sort of distraction, and sometimes it bites me because, like, I've gotten built up to that. Like, if I hear talk, I will stop and I will address, hey, what's going on? But sometimes you hear something out of the corner of your eye. It happens to me at the strip a lot where, like, I'll be doing a bit, I'll have everyone locked in, but I can hear something going on. I go, what the fuck? And it's just someone ordering a drink, and I'm like, oh shit. Now I've derailed my whole thing for something that's totally normal. Yeah. But in these like smaller bar shows, if there's chatter off the top and the host doesn't address it, doesn't set the tone, the room like, you are now going down a dangerous path. Now it's up to the first 1 or 2 comics on the show. If they are good comics and they are willing to step out of what they plan to do to address it, but most comics aren't. They're no, I got this 5 minutes. It's hard to get this 5 minutes. I've been looking forward to this. I'm doing my thing. I'm not hosting your show. I'm doing my thing, good, bad, or ugly, right? But then that passes to the next comic. Now it's set a tone. Now there's a precedent. Okay, you can talk during this show, right? Okay, and that's how it gets bad, right? Or there's times where it's just uncontrollable. Did you hear anything about the Dave Chappelle show at Rogers?
Yeah, where like people were like heckling or like moving while he was doing his set, and like it completely, like, when you look at what he's doing, it's like, that's a bomb. Like, you know what I mean? But it's not on him. No, it's just the crowd.
But here's the
fucked
thing.
him up.
I was at that show, and I could tell probably an hour before Dave Chappelle ever stepped foot on the stage, I was like, this is fucked.
Did they take the phones?
So I'll just start from the start. So you roll in, they have doors open, probably an hour before the first comic hits. They have a DJ playing, and they lock up your phones. So you have your phone on you, but it's in a yonder bag. These are very, very common in comedy at the highest level. But just for some people listening, they won't know. It's just a, kind of like this nylon bag that has a magnetic lock on the top. So when you go into the venue, your phone and your Apple Watch, your AirPods, anything electronic gets put into this bag, and they lock it. And you still keep that on. Like, you have all your devices with you, but you can't access them. And it's very common.
Primarily for photos and videos.
Yes, exactly. So you're not taking photos and videos. And also it does lock everybody in a different way, right? Like the Danger Cats, Uncle Hack, they have their own yonder bags. They just did a couple shows at the Moon this weekend. They had the yonder bags. And it changes the dynamic.
And they might record a bit out of context, and all of a sudden things go sideways, and you're like, you're missing fucking the whole premise.
Even if it's in context, it doesn't matter, because as a comedian, like, your material is
your money.
It's your money, right? Like, if someone puts something out that you're working on, that's why people get so weird if anyone even pulls a phone out at a comedy show. It's like, what are you going to do with that? I don't trust you. I don't want you to have my material. Like, if I film my own material, or at the Moon, we have someone filming the shows, like, that's already covered. But if you go to like bar shows, you'll see comics setting up their phones or a little camera in the back, film their own stuff. But so they locked up everybody's phones. So that changes the dynamic of the room. Everybody's now feeling a little bit odd, right? People are not away from their phones ever. So now you have, 20,000 people in this arena, and people are programmed to go to Rogers Place to get fucked up. Right? They go to hockey games, they go to concerts, to heavy drinking events, right? And comedy is a drinking event, but it's not in the same way, right? Like, you're going to, it's closer to go see, a theater play than it is to go see Metallica. Yeah. Right? Like, it's, it's comedy is its own thing. It's somewhere in the middle, but it's closer to that. But now you have 20,000 people that have paid big money to come do this experience where they have memories and like protocols of like, I go there and I get fucked up. So you can feel that room. Nobody's on their phones. Everyone's drinking. You can feel it. The DJ's playing. It was a long time for the comics. And then they had, I think, 3 or 4 comics do like 20 minutes. And throughout it, you can hear it. You can feel, like me as a comic, I could feel it in the air. And I was saying to my buddy Chase, who's like my best buddy, and he's come seen some comedy shows, like, this is going to get fucked, dude. This is not going to be good. Because you see what starts to happen, right? People start getting chatty. Drunk people say, hey, shut the fuck up. They think they're helping, but now they're causing chaos. There's a volume. When there's silence, it's weird to break that silence, right? Like, it's an important thing to a comedy show, like that tension that you can build up.
It's like your safety glass.
Yeah, but as soon as that gets broken and somebody's talking, now you feel like you can talk.
Yeah.
And like sometimes it's people telling people to shut up, but like,
it's like the riot mentality of like, and the more people you get, the more it turns into, oh, well, no one's going to know it's me saying, fuck you, your joke sucks. And then you just go back down.
So like you could feel it coming, And the last one they put on before Dave was Donnell Rollins, who's an awesome comic, but he's
crash out artist.
He's a high energy guy. Like how he does stand up is perfect to battle what was going on in that room. So it kind of got overseen, like, or it overshadowed what was happening in the room, but it was still cooking underneath, where I'm like, oh, this is going to be bad, right? People are now even drunker. And then Donnell gets off, and I thought, oh, Dave's going to jump right up. Maybe he'll get in underneath it, and he can reset the room to what Dave needs, because Dave operates with that silence.
Yeah, he's a storyteller.
He's a storyteller, right? And he's methodical, and he locks you in where everyone's waiting on bated breath
for
the next.
Long premises.
Long premises,
You're talking
right?
like 2-3 minutes long before he like hits a.
So then, before he goes on, they bring the DJ back, and I go, oh no. You're going to give people now, everyone goes get one more drink. People are getting rowdier. You're going to have a disconnected crowd when he comes in because people are going to be coming back from drinks. And they brought him up, and right from jump, you could tell. And now it's lost control. There's not enough security, right? Like you take like the comic strip, right? They can pack 300 people in there, but 300 in a room, you can police that with 2 guys.
Yeah,
if
you
you're
can
on
start
your
kicking people out.
Exactly.
Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. It's like, what are you going to do with 20,000
There's
people?
not enough security in Rogers Place to kick out enough people to keep ahead of that pace. And they tried, right? The first guy, how come he got booted, right? And that was a big piece of it. And then that's when it started, everyone yelling, shut the fuck up, listen to him. Like, I'm trying to watch and shit, which only makes it worse. And like, you could just see, and then to watch. And I loved it. Like, obviously, I would love to watch Dave Chappelle in a perfect scenario. Like, I was really excited to see Dave Chappelle. I've wanted to see Dave Chappelle my whole life. Like, that was a bucket list thing.
Yeah.
But I want to see Dave Chappelle in a comedy club. I don't want to see him in an arena. Like, I knew it was going to be bad. I hoped it would have been better than that. But, like, to get to watch that experience was, like, such a unique thing of watching one of the best to ever do it. For my money, probably the best to ever do it. Go up and have a unwinnable situation and still be so funny through it, like through his frustration and his like exasperation at what was happening around him. He's so funny. Like, I feel like that was such a unique show to get to watch of like, yeah, in a perfect world, I would see Dave in a 200 seat club and like get to see the Rock in his show where he stays for 3 hours. Like, that's perfect. But short of that, seeing kind of a crazy fucking nuts one that like he probably hated and like watch him navigate that, just like as a comic, it was so cool to watch.
It informs you because then you go, wow, he did that. That's crazy. I would have fucking freaked out or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, man. But that's, I think, like the, I think the more crowds, again, it's just this big balancing act because it's like, I want more butts and chairs equals more tickets. But now I'm going to like a conference center, and it's like a conference center is for fucking conferences, not for comedy shows.
Yeah. And here's the thing, arenas can work, right? Like Donnell Rollins did awesome, even though it was already like, it was much worse for Dave. Just like that's naturally.
But like Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart is an arena comic.
Yeah,
right.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up.
Is an arena comic.
They're so high energy. It doesn't matter how drunk and crazy they are.
Talk over.
They're not. Yeah, they're not relying on silence like Dave does. It's just like there's some comics you could see in an arena, and I'm sure it'd be sick. And I'm sure Dave has done arenas where it's been awesome. It's just Edmonton, Alberta. It was just such a perfect mixture of
you're
just
asking
like
for him to come on a journey with you. Whereas like Dane Cook, Kevin Hart, it's just like this boom, 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 boom. And they're everything, or Cat Williams. It's like everything's so up here where it's like, well, you talking and fucking freaking out. Like you're either with me and I'm so much of a thing that you can't help but to shut the fuck up and listen. Where Dane Cook, it's like if he's having a Trump premise and you don't give a fuck about Trump, it's like, well, you're gone for the next 5 minutes. Until he comes up with something else, right? And
that was another thing too of like watching not just Dave, but like everyone he brought, Cypher Sounds, Donnell, who else was on? I'm trying to remember, but to watch them try to navigate, because as comics, you're always trying to diagnose is this like a pro-Trump crowd? And like just for that one example you brought up, you're trying to figure out what this room is, not to pander, but just to be understand. Like it doesn't mean you have to pander to them, but you better be aware if you're going in to do some, really anti-Trump stuff and you're in Dothan, Alabama, you better be aware of like how it's going to be received or you're in for a world of hurt. So you could see comics before, and comics always kind of pay attention to the show. I'm sure there were comics in the back were watching how the first comic who brought up politics, but you're in Edmonton, fucking Alberta. You have some very liberal, very, left-leaning people, a good chunk of like, especially in the more expensive seats. But then you also have the rednecks from Westlaw coming down. You have Fort Mac people. You have people come from all over. So you have this huge, like, as much as a 50-50 split. So anytime a comic did something political, it pulled that arena apart, which was so, as a comic, to sit there and watch that and like to know the dynamics. Because I've dealt with these kind of dynamics. I've done the comic strip where you have, rig pigs and CEOs and stuff. Like that's naturally what you get in Edmonton.
There on like a business, whatever. But that was one of the questions that I was going to ask when you talk about like the Moon, where like, do you ever have to like tell a comic like, okay, like I get they smoke weed here, but like your weed joke's not funny. Or like, you know what I mean? Or where it's like, okay, how much am I like playing into this? And like, does it get too close to like biting someone else's shit? And like, there's only so many weed jokes.
And
you know what I mean? And if you can't frame it, it's like,
for sure,
lame.
And like, I think sometimes what you see at the Moon a little bit is people get intimidated because you have all these opportunities to do drinking shows, all different kinds of drinking shows, bar shows, outdoor shows, club shows. Like you get all these different reps, but a weed show is so much different from those. And the only opportunity you get to do them really is the Moon, right? There used to be a ton of weed rooms in Toronto. Those are all gone now. I think there used to be some in Vancouver. Those are gone now. For pretty much for Canadian comedy, there might be one or two, but nobody's doing them on that scale. So you see these comics who are maybe more established comics than what is letting on with some of like they're trying to address this thing. But they're just trying to get their feet wet. Like you'd notice like the one guy you talked about already, you didn't talk about him by name, but like Leo. Who's going around.
Super high guy,
right? Like, he has performed at the Moon so many fucking times. He's a regular there. He's from the start. He has always been there. He has all those reps.
I was like, does this dude have like fucking Asperger's?
he's got everything, baby.
I was like, yo, this guy got bit syndrome. This guy got bit by a fucking down spider, man.
100%. Half Filipino, half Down syndrome. That's him, baby.
Man.
That's Leo Langford. But like a guy like him, he is going out there and he's super comfortable, and he will play it up that he's more uncomfortable than he is. He's playing on the audience. Like he's a super talented performer and super tapped in. Like there's performers can be good for a bunch of different reasons, right? Like you can be an amazing writer and your joke writing is so solid that like maybe like your instincts and you're addressing what's happening in a room isn't super strong. Like that's like my strength is like I'm super tapped into what's going on and how to adjust and how to like change with that. But like my writing might not be as strong. Or like Leo's one of those guys where he is hyper aware of what's going on in a room and has really great instincts on how to take that and how to kind of play with that energy and pretend he's nervous and trying to take it on when he's not. Like sometimes he is nervous, but like I've seen him perform thousands of times. Like I can tell when he's pretending to be nervous for when he's actually nervous.
What would make him nervous? Like if he's performing at the same, that's like home court advantage. So like what would be the circumstances that would like heighten a comic like seeing a like you had your family there? Is that like something that like almost like adds another level of like, okay, I gotta watch what bits I say, and then it kind of fucks your shit?
Yeah, a little bit, like things like that can be, but like for a normal, like not often is family being there going to be one of those things. Like my family comes to see some shows, so that's something I've worked on getting over and not letting that get in my head. But like if you're saying for like a guy like Leo, like what would make him more nervous? Like most of the standard things that would make a comic nervous is like the stakes, right? Like, is this a really big opportunity for me? Am I middling at the comic strip for like a comic I really respect? Like I did a weekend where I was middling and it was Sam Tripoli was the headliner. And I've been a fan of Sam Tripoli for, you know, a decade before I even stepped foot on a stage, right? Like I revere this man, right? Like that adds a little bit of nerves, right? One of the biggest things is watching the show before you. If the host struggles, if people struggle before you and it's like, oh fuck, this is going to be a tough one, that can heighten your nerves. If you're having a bad day and you don't feel very funny, you're not really into it, maybe you slept bad, maybe you're not feeling good, you're a little sick, that can up the stress. There's a bunch of different things that can make a comic more or less nervous, right? But regardless of what's happening, that's what your job is as the comic, is to go up, fight all that off, and bring the best of yourself that you can to the stage. And I think a guy like Leo is one of the best ones at it. So you see a guy like him, he might be playing that he's nervous or it's not going good and stuff, but he's fully in control. Like specifically to that set you saw on that, like he was fully in control that whole time. Like me knowing him,
I had fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it because you know a lot of people in the crowd are like, is he actually like this?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
but he's not.
Right. Like he could come off and be a normal person.
For sure. Like he's a bit of like, I don't know, most comics are a bit of a weird. Like I love Leo. He's one of my favorite people, but like he, you know, definitely plays up on stage a lot of those things. And like watching him since I started comedy, because he'd done comedy for many years before I started. And I got to see him at like that point when I started. And then watching how he's grown and how all those weird little things he kind of would do, like it's become way less random, way more intentional. And it allows him to do way more stuff on stage and really get people onto his unique, weird vibe that he brings to a stage. He's so good at bringing everyone on board, specifically at the Moon. The reason I brought up Leo is because he's one of those guys that is very comfortable there. I'm trying to think of who else was on the lineup.
Then talk about the headliner guy, Ginger Beard. It's like he comes on and it's like the Dave Chappelle type thing where it's like he really has
Who's the Ginger Beard?
He came on, he had like a military, like army, like coat. He was like, he moved here from Calgary.
Oh, Tommy Miller.
Yeah.
So
okay. I'm watching him and I'm
going, headline my own show.
And I'm like watching him and not to say like, but some of the jokes were like over my head and you're like, that's okay. Like whatever. But the tone where you're like, man, like these jokes better be good. Cause like, I'm not like whatever vibe you got going on of like the fucking nonchalant, like, you know, whatever. Like
I would call that autism.
I like, and then on top of that, like some of the jokes, like you could tell that like he was just like expecting, you know, like he said something about the phones and then said, and I'd be Jewish. And then it was like, okay, like I think phones have something to do with Jewish people, but like I'm not really understanding.
Yeah, so like that's a perfect example of what I was talking about, of like a charisma versus writing. Like a guy like Leo, not that he's a bad writer, but he leans way more. His skill set is his ability to like read a room, go on it, be weird, be crazy, like bring people along on a journey. Where like Tommy Miller is one of those guys I point out where he is a writing first comic. He leans on his joke writing. He's not, you know, running all over the stage being crazy. He is stand and deliver, do his stuff, but he's a really good writer. But what comes with that, especially in a room full of people who are super stoned, right? Like that can be a little bit tougher, because if you do miss something or you get distracted by something, you're thinking you're trying to put together what he meant by this joke and you miss the setup for this one. Like that's a tougher thing. But he is like, one of the best joke writers I know. And like, he's so good at writing things only he could write. Like the way he finds things funny, like his unique sense of humor and then how to write that into a joke format and bring it to the stage. He's one of the best I've seen. And like, he's a guy, when he moved from Calgary, I didn't know who he was. I'd never met Tommy Miller before. I'd maybe heard his name, but I heard, oh, he's moving to Edmonton. Then I got to see him perform. I was like, oh yeah, we got us a good one. I like this guy, you know, he may not be able to do exactly what Leo Langford does or this guy does, but this thing he does, he's a lead at it, right? And it might not necessarily be for everyone, but like that's why you need all kinds of different comics.
Or someone that does impressions, or someone that,
exactly,
you know what I mean? Like it's,
and the more of that you can have in one comedy scene, the better shows you can put on, right? Because like you need people that are really strong writers. That's what pushes guys like me who maybe don't put as much effort into fuck, I gotta be better. Right? I watch a Tommy Miller set sometimes and I go, fuck, I gotta go home and I gotta rewrite my shit because that's elite writing, right? Like,
do you ever find times comedies like dumb themselves down because they like inherently just go like, okay, I don't know how I'm thinking about this, but if I say this, people are gonna think I'm fucking retarded. Or certain premises, like you really gotta like set up properly where you're like, I'm not necessarily sure if everybody's gonna get it, so like I was gonna use this antidote, but I'm gonna use like this simpler one here because like that's kind of something I want to get into because I think it's so funny where like we were talking about before where like a lot of people think they're like, I think I'm a funny guy. Like
everyone's a funny guy.
Yeah, everybody's a funny guy, but I even like I aspire to do like a 60-second set to be like, hey, how do I handle like not talking too much, getting the joke, the premise, whatever it is.
You can do it tonight if you want.
Yeah?
Yeah, any night.
Maybe.
It's a Wednesday, Grindstone open mics. Show up, go up. On the floor.
It's all right. But kind of how does a premise turn in to like a bit? Like, I'll give you this is a premise I'm working on. Okay. Got engaged last year or like 6 months ago. Yep. We're planning our wedding. Her family's super Catholic. We go to a church. And we're like, hey, like we want to get married. Oh, well, you have to do all these like marriage counseling, this and that. By who? Oh, well, the pastor. Well, doesn't he not fuck? Like,
it's the wrong guy.
Why would I take marriage advice from a dude that's not allowed to get married? That don't make no fucking sense.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to tell me how I should have conversations with my wife?
Yeah.
Dude, what's going on here?
Right. So you have yourself a premise there. Right. And here's the thing with comedy. Getting advice on comedy is a very weird thing. And this is something I've just come to learn. I didn't know this before I started stand-up, but like stand-up is so weird and everybody does it different that no one can ever really tell you how to do it. Most of the times when you're getting advice, that specific comic is telling you how they do it. And that might not work for you. It can be helpful and you can take pieces from it, but there's so many different ways to attack comedy and so many different ways to do it that like getting advice is tough because you have to like almost before you can get advice is understand that thing of what I'm hearing from this person is only them trying to regurgitate how they do it. And that might not work for me, but you just keep an open mind and you take what you can get. Like, if you want my help on that, like what I always go to is like, and I think you've already done this. I think it's pretty easy to diagnose this, but like go to it. What is the funniest part to you? Like, what is the crux of that premise? Like that's a long premise, but like the premise is I find it funny that they want you to take marriage advice from someone who can't get married, right? Or sex advice from someone that can't have sex. Like that's the crux of your thing. And now, what is the funniest way you can get that across in the shortest amount of time?
I said, imagine a priest showing you how to put a condom on a banana.
Yeah, there you go. So like that's the joke there. Like you found a quick way to get that across, right? Because if you want that to work, like if you went up on stage and you tried to like say that exactly how you said it, the setup was so long that by the time you get to that thing,
people were like, I already get it.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it just, and that's most of how, especially at the start, everybody writes is like you have something that you find funny, but your skills to convey that aren't there yet. So it gets lost along the way. And most of comedy is like, write it out however you can convey it and then go back and chop it down. What is unnecessary? What can I pull out? How quick? How quick can I get to this big punch onto the big turn to the big premise of the bit, and then how short can I make the walk up to that, and how funny can I make the walk up to that? Because like you can have little funny things sprinkled along the way to keep people giggling, to keep yourself more room. But if there's no funny in it and you're just explaining to get to this thing, you now have dead time where people are losing trust in you. Your trust with the audience is falling of how funny this is going to be. If your setup's too long, the punchline can be so fucking funny, but if the setup's too long, people aren't there for it. You're not going to get the response that maybe the humor of that line deserves.
Yeah.
And that's most of like what joke writing is just tightening it up, getting there quicker, and being funnier along the way to get to those big pieces. But like where I think you're like on that one, you're already ahead of the game. You had a premise there. A lot of times people kind of have a thing that they kind of find funny. Like a piece of advice I give often, because we would do these things. We haven't done them recently with the move and stuff, but we would do these things called comedy workshop every Tuesday. So the Tuesday night, the comic strip has their pro-am night. So there'll be 4 or 5 booked comics on it, a bunch of draw spots. Usually 20, 30 comics show up all to try and get on it, because it's one of the only places you can get on at the comic strip when you're earlier on or as you're trying to get in with the club. And we would start it at 10, so you could go enter the draw at the strip. And there's a lot of comics that go out, right? Tuesday's a good night, because if you're a comic that maybe has a family or a full-time job and you have to pick and choose, a lot of them are going to be choosing Tuesday over other nights because it's a great opportunity to get in this club.
Right.
So then we'd go to the Moon. And what we would do is we would get a bunch of, like, very rarely would there be audience. Every once in a while, audience would come in and check it out. But most of the time, it's just comics. We'd hang out, shoot the shit. When we had enough comics to start, we'd start. And it would go, each comic would go up, try some new material. And then we would, as a group, you know, myself, Trish, and any of the comics that are in the room, we'd talk about the jokes you did on stage, give other tags that we think were funny, other ways you could take it. And then a lot of just like general feedback. And one of the ones that like came to mind that like I was ready to say this to you, because it's almost anytime someone tries to run a joke by me when they haven't done stand-up a long time, this is the first thing I say, but I didn't need to because you already had it. But what is the funniest part to you? Right? If you have this big premise of like, what do you find funniest, and hone in on that.
Yeah.
Because like it's so easy to be too expansive when you first start, but like when you got to it at the end, like you had a concise thing of like, it was the juxtaposition of them imposing counseling on you from someone who shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
That's a clear, concise thing. That's where the funny is.
What the fuck?
Right into that, right? Like sit, get a piece of paper in front of you. What are all the ways you find that funny? What are all the different like weird examples, like the priest teaching you to put a condom on, right? Like write out 10 of those, find them, and just like really hone into where you find it funniest. And that will help you along the way of finding like what that best bit is. And then, like I said, it's just, how do you get there faster? How do you get there funnier?
Here's my next one and my last one.
Okay.
Went to a university, used to be a nunnery.
A nunnery?
Male to female ratio, 11-1.
Ooh.
How do you convince a school full of women that you're not gay?
Wait.
Well, because I'm a student there.
Right, but male to female, it's 11-1? So 11 males to 1 female?
11 females
so
to
it's
1 male.
So it's 1 to 11.
Yeah.
That just, my first thing would be to clean up your framing, because you should have said male to female, or female to male is 11-1.
Right.
Right? Because now it's backwards. I thought it was all, I thought you were in a sausage fest.
And then you say, how hard is it to convince those 11 girls that you're not gay?
Right.
Because why the fuck would you be at like an all-female school?
Yeah, I mean,
you're either trying to fuck.
That's where my mind went. Yeah.
Or you're gay as shit.
Yeah. Like I think how I would change that is, how do you convince those? How do you convince all those girls? And I played
soccer. I'm even gayer.
There you go. Well, but because there's two different things, like that could be the one way you go is the gay thing, but like the other thing is maybe you are just trying to fuck. So like how I was just like, how do I convince all these women that I'm not gay or a predator, right? To bring in both, because I think if you just go that way, where you're saying, how do I convince them I'm not gay? A lot of people in the audience are going to be sitting there like me being like, that doesn't seem gay at all. They're off to the chicks, right? So there's going to be a dissonance where people are kind of confused by it. It doesn't hit the same way.
They're going to be like, well, you are.
Right? Yeah. Like you could say, yeah, I went to a university, but like here's the thing. If the nunnery part isn't going to come back in the joke, drop it. Right?
Yeah, I thought that was like a storytelling bit where it's like,
and if you are telling the story, and that's the thing, storytelling versus bits are two completely different games with very different rules.
Yeah.
So like that is a good thing. If you're telling a story, then there's more to it. But to me, there's not enough there for a story. Nothing happened.
It doesn't add to the joke. Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
So how I would clean that up is just, I went to university and it was a 11-to-1 female to male ratio. I spent half my time convincing girls I wasn't gay and half the time convincing people I wasn't a sexual predator. Right. Like that's not a great
like
joke.
You're there.
Yeah. But like that tightens it up. It like I said, it gets you there quicker, and it is a more fully fledged joke because I think there is going to be confusion if you don't put the other part in, right? Like, and there's still better ways to say that. There's like tighter writing you could put in there, but those are the things I think
like
about.
Lead ups, like on ramps.
Like you need to have the least words possible to convey what you're trying to convey without adding confusion, because you could cut out even more than that and just do it like you said. You know, like I went to a university where it was 11 females to 1 male. How do you explain to all those girls I'm not gay? Yeah. Right? Like that is a tighter version, but I promise you there will be people in the audience that don't laugh because they go, why is that gay? You're with a bunch of chicks, right? Like,
do you think premises like that are almost like they could be hits, but they could also be like mustard gas to your whole audience? Because you're like, oh, if I don't really say this proper, like a lot of things that I like right now that you look at with like Austin comedy or like the Kill Tony scene where it's like, okay, trans jokes, gun jokes, homeless, gay, bisexual, LGBTQ jokes. Yeah. It's like how easily, if you don't set it up right, everybody's just like, nah, I'm not there. And just the simple fact that it's like, even if it was like it wasn't like a crazy joke, but it's the fact that people think you let in.
Yeah, you can say one word and everyone can tense that to be a joke completely.
But it's more of like a identity thing. But the fact that I said a premise about being gay, people automatically go like, it wasn't good enough to allow you the pass.
Exactly.
To do the gay thing.
And that's what I would tell most people, right? Like, you may find it funny, but odds are until you're 7 to 10 years into comedy, you're probably not a good enough comic to do any of those jokes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that doesn't mean, it doesn't even necessarily have to be like edgy. That could be like, when I first started comedy, I wanted to do comedy about what my interests were. And I'm a podcast nerd. I'm a joke. I want to talk about like conspiracy theories and AI and all this shit. I just wasn't a good enough comic. Like you need to write jokes about dicks and farts for 4 years to even be able to move up to like maybe a simple gay joke. Like you're just
or like
not
even
there.
Or even like they call it the birds and bees. Have you ever seen a bird fuck a bee?
Yeah, right. Like that.
Like that makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
And have you
kind
ever
of made me giggle.
How many times have you seen a bird fuck a bee? Why are we talking?
Not enough.
Why does that have to do with fucking?
There you go. That's the best premise I've heard out of you all day. That's pretty good, right? When's the last time you saw a bird fucking a bee?
Yeah,
I like that.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
But that is something that like it's a trap you fall into where like I see comics all the time try and do jokes they're just not ready to do. It's not funny enough for like the swing. Like a big thing, I see a lot of abortion jokes that are not funny.
Yeah.
And it makes a room feel bad and everyone pulls back and it's bad for the room. And you go, I'm not saying you can't do abortion jokes, but I'm saying just get better at jokes and then come back to
and then to
like,
get someone back after that.
You've been doing comedy for, 10 months. Why are you trying to tackle abortion? You're not there yet. You're not Louis C.K. You're not fucking Dave Chappelle. Like,
and maybe the
start
way
with
that
dicks and farts.
And maybe the way that you're thinking could be somewhat fucked up, where it's like
it's just not worth it.
Even the funniest, even the person that's the easiest to get giggling, it's like they're gonna be like, you need help.
Yeah. And like, it's just, there's so much, like comedy's hard enough. If you try and tackle some third rail concept, you're doing a disservice to yourself because it's already hard enough. You don't need to make it more difficult. You're going to bomb doing basic material. You're going to suck. You're going to fucking hate yourself. Go through that without adding in these layers of difficulty. And then once you've gotten a baseline amount of skills, you can try and get experimental. You can try and get crazy, right? Like, but then there's some people that don't. Like you've had Hack on here.
Yeah.
Hack, when I started comedy, he was always a super funny guy. He just is insanely funny, like off stage, on stage. But his thing that he wanted to do on stage was quite risky. And if he would have taken that advice, right, like he's the perfect example of like the exception to the rule. He just went more whole ham and has gotten really, really good at navigating these really tough subjects. And his writing has gotten so much clever because he's forced to, because he's dealing with that thing where it doesn't matter what the joke is. Certain audiences are going to close right down before they even give it a chance because he said certain word, right? He brought up trans. Okay, they're completely shut down. But he worked and like battled through people not getting on board with him to find, how good do I have to make the joke? How clever does it have to be where I can like begrudgingly bring these people who like would never laugh at a trans joke, but it's so fucking good that he pulls it out. And he's become so good at that. Like he's come leaps and bounds in that from what I've seen of, you know, when I first started comedy, I was watching the stuff he's done to like now. It's amazing, but he was always super duper funny. It's just his specific, because being funny and being a good comic are not the same thing. Like when you talk about, oh, you know, everyone thinks they're funny, everyone thinks they can try. It's like, you might be funny, but are you funny under the lights in front of people with all those eyes on you, trying to remember with all that, like it's insane pressure. Like it almost takes you a number of years just to get comfortable enough with that many eyes on you to be able to bring whatever amount of funny you do have to the stage. Like some of the funniest people I know, like people that have started comedy in the last year and a half will say, who like off stage and when you're hanging out with them, is the funniest fucking person you'll ever see. Way funnier than like some comics that have done it for 15, 20 years. But they don't have the skill sets of that 15 or 20 year comics. You see them, this person that you know is so funny, makes you laugh all the time off stage, get up on that stage under those lights, and it's not the same.
And because it's situated, like I have guys at work that I think are fucking hilarious, but it's like, you're hilarious based on like the situation and like the things that you were able to do and where, but you put this in like a controlled setting and like everybody's waiting, like, okay, I'm ready to laugh.
There's expectations.
Okay, I'm ready to laugh. And they're like, well, fuck you. Like, but it's like saying it at another, like, I find like I have a buddy of mine and every time like we would get complaints or every time someone would say like, well, like the rules are this, or I think this way, he would go, well, I think I'm a black lesbian. Oh, all right. Like, sure. Like we can think whatever we want. Doesn't mean it's true. Right. But it's like, if I actually had him like, okay, you're going to do like a minute. It'd be like, nah, like, you know what I mean? Cause it's just like funny in those little pockets of life.
And you can see like, even within that same room, like I've had shows where, because the shows I run specifically at the Moon, like the Asylum Gen Pop, where someone can be in the room being funny from the crowd, right? Like saying funny things, actually getting some good laughs, right? Like chucking and jiving, kind of like going toe to toe with the comics. And you go, hey, you want to get up here and try it? Yeah. And then you watch, that's the first step on the stage. Second one, their face changes, they turn around.
And they're
it's
like,
so
oh,
different.
Shit.
And then no matter how funny you are, you do not have access to that funny of like, everybody has a certain baseline funny. Like I always talk about it weirdly as like this like spark or fire that you have in you, right? And like some people are like insanely funny. Like Drew Sicko. I don't know if he was on that show, but he's like a young kid, just started stand-up, like, but he's a very, very funny kid, like super silly, always funny. Like the funny fire that burns within him is very hot and very like bright. But you lose access to that. That's the funny you are when you're just, there's no stakes. We're sitting here, we're fucking around. And then when you get up on that stage, it's like you have all this dynamics that like extinguish that down. So now you're just accessing like a little bit about it. And like the years and the reps and the effort you're putting in and getting put in these weird situations are allowing you to be able to access as much of that is. Like you'll see some people who aren't the funniest people, to be honest, like off stage, just hanging out with them. They might like dudes. But like they might have, it's a small fire. It's like the fire on the back of a Charmander's tail, right? It's not burning, but they have put in a ton of effort to gain confidence, stage presence, and material that allows them to get full access to that. Whereas like they might have 10% of the funny of like a Drew Sicko, But, you know, like say Drew Sickle has, you know, a fire score of 326.
Right.
And this, you know, Joe Blow only has like an 80, right?
Yeah.
Much smaller fire. But he's accessing full 80 because of the work he's put in.
Right.
And he's able to get results from that. Whereas like Drew, because he's so new to it, you know, he might have 326, you know, like funny fire inside of him, but he's only accessing, you know, 30 to 40. He might be, if he's really ripping, he's in 100, but he has way more to give. But he will gain access to that over the next coming years if he keeps working at stand-up and getting better and better.
Is that a personality thing, or is that a way that people see it? Like, the longer you do it, say you're open mic, blah, 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 you're ready, piss and vinegar, blah, 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 blah. And then, like, the more you go on, the more you understand, like, oh, I'm trying to turn this into a day job, blah, 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 blah. And then it's like you start to, like, the level of enthusiasm you have for this, like, career path, right?
Yeah.
Like, because when I think about with anything, it's like, oh, if I wanted to go and be on the rigs, it's like, okay, your first couple years, you're like, oh, this is so cool. I get to live in a camp and fucking whatever it is. And then I get 2 weeks off. And then over time, so saying that, is that like how people just normally handle that comic route? Or is it like a personality where you can get a guy from day one, he's like a somber, like shell of himself, and then he goes on stage, kills it, comes out, and he's like, meh, you know? Or is everybody excited at the start, and then it meanders off after you get so many years in?
Most of the time, it's that. Like, this is the thing. Comedy is so weird and there's so many different people that try it and different routes that people can take, that there will be at least one example of everything you can think of how you could handle comedy or someone could approach comedy. Somebody out there is approaching it or handling it that way. But there are things that are more common than others. Most of the time, you start off, it's... There's
like
something...
If I Bobby Lead and showed my nuts first set, would I ever get rebooked?
Depends where he did it. Depends where he did it. What
Depends
what the reaction got.
I did like a full, what do they call it on waiting, where he like goats them?
The goat? Yeah.
Where I goated the audience.
That's the thing. I saw a comic pull his full asshole out and spread cheek, go full hole to the room before.
It's like, how do I go back on stage?
Yeah, like, you can do crazy shit. It depends how you pull it off, you know? Like, I still see that guy at shows, right? Like,
probably in your...
Yeah, well, that too.
Yeah. You just see a big hairy asshole.
Maybe a wet dream. Who knows? Who knows? To each his own. But, like, there is something that comedy is so scary, especially at the start, that there's kind of, I call it, what would I used to call it? The new guy bubble, where just the fact that you're getting out and stepping on stage is such a big accomplishment. And like, that's almost the win itself. Like, how good you do doesn't matter, because you are battling all this fear and all the things. Maybe I'll just stay home tonight. No, I went out. Maybe I won't put my name in the draw. Maybe I'll just watch it. No, I put my name in the draw. Okay, it came out. Like, you've already overcome so many things that, like, just to step on that stage is the win. And that energy is felt by the audience. Like, humans can detect things. Like, we have thousands, tens and tens of thousands of years of being able to detect other human emotion, like in tribes and shit, especially at scale. You know, you get, a couple people in a room, you might be able to fake the funk with them. If you put one person in front of 100, you're going to know pretty quickly, like, where their head is at. Like, it's just body language, vocal cues, you can tell. And when someone is in their first, and this is funny because sometimes it's, the first couple weeks, sometimes people can ride this for months, but there is this shine of, like, the audience can tell. It's like they're nervous, but they're nervous because it's new, and they're way more accepting for you to fuck up. They're way more supportive, right? Usually that's impacted by the host saying, hey, this is only his fifth set, like, give it up for him. People are way more accepting of, like, what level you bring to the stage.
Do you find that also is where people, like, present, like, where they're at in life? Like, as an older comic getting started with comedy, do people have less acceptance or less, like, leniency to, like, bomb than if you were, like, a younger appearing comic?
Probably. I think it's how you carry yourself. Like, I noticed it definitely more with like younger comics where they're so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. You can tell this is so cool to them that like it's almost funny just to watch them go through and stumble through a set, that people are laughing along and they're, you know, it's not awkward. Like watching someone go up that like has expectations and knows they have done well before and then they struggle and you can watch their soul crush. That's a very different dynamic in a room of like, ooh, this feels bad, right?
Like I wouldn't boo a 70, like if a 70-year-old man first day doing stand up and it was shit, I'd still like laugh.
And
but if this was a 17-year-old man, I'd be like, you fucking suck.
And you think that, but I bet you if you were in a room and you got to see a newer comic, innately, just psychology wise, you probably would be more accepting of it and like you'll watch that. But then this happens is someone starts comedy. Their first couple sets, it's really bad, but because they're so new, or even like it's actually pretty good for like a new comic. Like there's, I hate using names because people always, comics are very precious about it. It's like,
they say, I'm a new comic.
But like you see where they might be kind of killing it for the first couple weeks and you go, you just wait. Because like you're still riding that new guy bubble. You have this shield of armor around you. You haven't had expectations yet. Wait until you've done it for 3 months. That shine has worn off. The anxiety changes if it's not like, holy fuck, this is so cool. I'm even doing this. It's like, no, I've done this enough. I want this to go well. And you watch, like, I always tell comics, you're not a comic until you've gone through that stage. And sometimes it's a few weeks, sometimes it's a few months, but you have to almost, you'll feel like you're on this big upwards trajectory. I'm getting better at it. And then it feels like you get way worse. You haven't gotten worse. You've gotten better from the start, but there's a difference. Yeah. And there's expectations. So your psychology has changed and the psychology of a room witnessing what's happening on the stage has changed. And you have to go through that. And when you can climb out of that, that's when I say people are a real comic. Like I remember, again, I keep wanting to give examples, but I don't want to fucking hurt anybody's feelings. But like, I've seen, you know, like, I remember one comic coming up to me who was going through this, and I never said it to his face, like, hey, you're going to have this thing happen. But I remember talking to Trish of like, oh, he's ready for the crash. He's going to get humbled soon, where he's starting to think he's way better than he is, but he's getting by on all this new guy shine, and it's going to kind of crash. And then him being devastated, coming to us and like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just like, this is part of it. Like,
do if people you can like run out of bits? Like what
it's
like,
not even running out of bits, but that's what gets them. It's like, I'm doing the same bits, but now I'm bombing and these were working. It's like, you were getting by off of a very,
people being happy for you.
Yeah. People being happy for you and like your own, you know, like wonder at this thing that you're doing got you by and people were way more supportive. Now you've done it enough times that has fallen off. Now you are seeing the accurate strength of your jokes and they're not very good and they shouldn't be good.
Yeah.
The jokes you
but
write.
They were good to you as a new person, but now that you're getting to a more different level, these jokes are kind of shitty.
Yeah. Like now you're a 6-month comic doing, you know,
day one
jokes, right? And you like, you always should be moving past that, right? Like you should, if you're doing the same joke, and you see people that have done comedy for longer than I have, like there's people who are already doing comedy for a few years when I started, and I'll see them today and they're doing the exact same 5 minutes and it's terrible. Yeah. And it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you think in your head.
But like, how often do you think you're like refreshing your own bits? Like because some people, it's like, they have these premises and it's like, okay, this is my 5 premises. And then you have people like a Louis C.K. or like a Dane Cook, or where it's like lived in experience, where it's like, well, if you have a dude that doesn't fucking like go out much or do anything, like is the expectation that he's going to have like new shit? And like, where's that balance of like telling a new comic, like, you just got to get out more.
Yeah.
And is that a thing where like, hey, I could get the same jokes of watching YouTube than actually having human interaction? And like,
yeah.
Do the premises still have the same like height? Where it's like the premises that I have in my own mind could go here, but the premises that I could have as like a relatable experience at a club or going to a fucking food court and seeing like a person with a 2 liter of Sprite at the food court. And you're like, how the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, what are you're eating Ito with a 2-liter of Sprite. Like, I don't get.
Like, you always should be farming for material. Like, they always talk about, like, you have to live life to have things to talk about. Like, and I think that's what you're talking about. But, like, less so than that, there's like, that is one half of the equation, but there's also this of, like, writing jokes is a skill, right? Like, the jokes you write when you're day one, first couple sets, are the worst jokes you should ever write because it's your first attempts at it, right? Like, your joke, like, the jokes you can write, regardless, premises aside, you should be able to write a better joke. Like, you should be able to take a way shit, like, say you started, you had one really good premise when you started, for like your first show, you had one really good premise, but you're not a good joke writer, so you didn't really maximize that premise. You should be able, a year or two later, you should be able to take a premise that's 3 times less funny than that one at the start, but do a 10 times better joke because you're a better joke writer. Your 1,000th joke you write is going to be better than your first joke you write. Your 10,000th is going to be better than your 1,000th, right? So you always got to kind of like push through, even if it's the same premise, but you rewrite it, right? With the new skills you've gotten to. It's getting caught in that trap of just having something that works, being too scared to bomb and change it, and just like running it through. Right? Like, and you'll see that happen. It happens to so many comedians where they just do the same stuff and don't really grow from there.
Do you find at all like it interferes with like just living life? Because since I've been doing podcasting, everybody I meet, I'm vetting as a guest.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, is there ever times you catch yourself
all the time
going to something and being like, I'm really going for this because it might be a good bit?
All the time. And I bet you that's different per comic.
Like, because some people can't separate, but for me, it's like, I'm 100%.
Yeah.
Like, whenever I talk to anybody, the barometer is like, could I have an hour-long conversation? What would I ask them? What's like the cool thing about them that I could like highlight? And then I'm like, oh, I'm just at like dinner with like family or whatever it is. And you're like, I'm not really there, but I'm there.
Yeah, I think there's some people, I think it depends how obsessive you get over stand-up. Like, a guy like me that thinks about stand-up 24/7 all the time, I'm always thinking about something. I'm always thinking about
And it's not
jokes.
like I was driving to this family dinner and being like, oh, podcast. But it's like the minute I talk to someone in the fucking background, I'm like, yeah, they're not really that interesting of a person. Okay, next. And then I just continue with the conversation. But like, as a comic, like, anything anybody tells you, you're probably like, oh, well, if I thought about it this way, or I handled it this way, or like you go to an event and you just know, you're like, oh yeah. Like, when I went to that comedy show, every comic that went on, like, my barometer of like funniness was also how well I think they could do at a conversation. And then with that, I was like, well, I want to have them on a guest. So now I'm going to laugh at their jokes.
Interesting.
You know, but like,
I get it.
But it's like, that was the and I wasn't even thinking about it.
Yeah.
But the less I thought someone could conversate, I'm like, well, I'm not really going to give in and like give you what you want. Cause like, you know, I'm not really like satiated.
You're playing a whole different game.
Yeah. But it's like in the background, like an architect, does he walk into buildings and go like, man, Bill, like, you know?
I'd imagine
and
so.
that just turns into your like, like processing skills.
And I think like when you ask that, like if you ask that of me, for sure, I'm always thinking of that. I'm always thinking about like bits and could this be turned in? Could I talk about this on stage? But I bet you there's some comics that do it, you know, kind of weekend warrior type. Like, they kind of like the community, but they're not really obsessed with stand-up. They just like being around the people and that. I bet you they don't think about it all the time. They kind of, you know, they wrote their 5 minutes 10 years ago, and that's what they're going to keep doing. They're not really trying to write anything new. But the real sicko, like, I can name you some comics that I guarantee are thinking about it 24/7, are always writing, are always doing that, because they're it's an addiction. It's an obsession.
But like, even for me, if I see a soccer ball, I'll just juggle. Anytime I see a soccer ball, I'll juggle it. Always. Because it's just like, my brain can't like process this any other way but like playing. Or like someone that sees a piano, play a couple keys, they do a couple chords, you know what I mean?
For sure. And like, that's like where that shit comes in, is like remembering that life isn't a comedy show, and sometimes you want to say some crazy fucked up shit, which is what's nice about hanging out with comics, is you know you have the freedom. Or hanging out at the Moon, even though I'm not hanging out at the Moon with comics, it's it's Dave and Trish. Like, I know I can say crazy shit and not be at risk of, you know, offending someone. But then sometimes you're in like an airport and someone says something to you and you have to get, like, it's like halfway out your mouth. And like, well, I can't, where am I? I can't be saying this shit. Like,
Right.
that's the juggling the soccer ball. Sometimes you, especially like how I do stand up is like, I don't ever go up. Like most comics, if they're going up and they're doing 5 minutes or 15 or 30, they know I'm going to start with this joke, go to this one. I'm weird. I don't do comedy like that. I go up very freestyle. I will write down a bunch of jokes and premises that I can do, probably have more than I need, but I'm just going to go up, fuck around, talk to people, have fun. What's the first joke that pops in my head? I'm going to run that one, right? Maybe do a little bit of crowd work, go into another one. Some are like longer chunks that I know, like, you know, if they're into it, I can do 15 minutes on this.
Right.
But if they're not, I might just, you know, get as many jokes in on this subject. Like one I talk about is
Okay, one sec, quick break, go.
You have to reset that.
Reset it again.
Got it. That's when you know it's a good one. You got to do a double reset.
Yeah.
I thought the dog was about to get in shit. I thought Ralph was in trouble.
Just beat the fucking wheels off of him.
No, he's too cute. He's too cute.
That's what I always say to my woman. Before you get started this, I always say to my woman, like, she goes, I didn't like that way he talked to me. I said, you want to go back? We'll beat the fucking brakes right off of
Jesus. You are
She's
a
like,
comic.
what? She's like, what? And I was like, I'm just joking.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I was like, but I'll get my buddy. You want me to call? I'll call.
Yeah.
We'll go beat the fucking wheels off this dude.
What was I saying before we did the reset?
Okay, you were saying about going on stage and having premises.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
like, measuring the audience, because like you could take a premise, stretch it out, or it could be a quick bit.
Yeah, or just fuck around. Like, I like the freedom of that. Like, but that's very unusual. I don't see a lot of people that do stand up like I do.
No.
Like, and when I started, comics very much did not like how I did it, and were trying to tell me to not do it that way.
Do you think that's a self-esteem thing? Do you think like you have enough confidence in yourself, but the way that you act on stage almost like triggers another dude's insecurities because he knows that he wouldn't do that on stage? So he's like, don't open up Pandora's box. Now you're telling me that I got to share my fucking airport stories? Like,
yeah, possibly.
Slow the fuck down, guy.
That could be. Yeah, I guess I never really thought about it that deeply, but there probably is on some of them. Like, I think they're like, maybe like subconsciously that's what was going on, but I think like consciously what they were saying, and it's probably right, is like, if you want to be booked, you have to prove to bookers that you can do a consistent 5 or 10 minute thing that is repeatable, because then they can trust that they can book you. Right. In my head, it was always, well, if you see me do the thing that I do and it's different every time, but it's always consistently good and good for the show, it shouldn't matter. I'll get booked anyways.
Right. But they're thinking on a business mind.
On a business level, right?
Yeah.
Like, which
they're like, how marketable are you? Like, can you do a tight 5, get the fuck out of there?
Yeah.
And then running your light. And then they're like, man, like, what are you doing?
So like maybe underneath it, there was some insecurity things that were making people think, but like there was a rational, logical explanation on why they were telling me. Like, it's not like they were just being mean. They were, you know, trying to help of just like, hey, you know, you're young, you don't know the industry. Like, this is something that will help you. So like, I never really thought about it as that bad of a thing. It's just, it was tough to me because I just wanted, you know, you naturally as a human being, you want acceptance.
Yeah.
And I wanted, you know, the acceptance of my peers and everything. And to hear that a lot of just like, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that. I was always like, oh, fuck, like, am I doing this wrong? Because like, this feels very normal. This feels like how I want to do it. But
there's a setting for it.
Yeah. And
that's interesting. I think I caught that premise wrong because like, when you look at the criticism, sometimes the criticism can actually be trying to aid you in your marketability rather than your skill as a comic. It's like, that's a good joke, but it's not a good joke for the comedy strip. Like, that's a good joke at like fucking around Tuesday at the workshop and like fleshing it out. But like, this is not like a dialed in. Yeah. And when this guy who doesn't do comedy and he's trying to sell 300 tickets, he's not going to know the difference of what the fuck you're doing. Right? That's interesting.
There's a lot that goes into it. It's a very unique industry that it seems very simple. Everyone goes, oh, you go up and you be funny. I've been funny before. Everyone thinks they understand it, but it's such a weird mind fuck. And it's so competitive and people are ruthlessly mean that like, most people will never understand what it's like to go through the journey of a comedian. Even if you're like a big comedy fan, there's something about the dynamics and the scarcity mindset that exists around stand-up, because everybody, if you do stand-up and you continue to do stand-up, it means you're addicted to it.
Yeah.
If you're not addicted to the shit, you will quit so fast because it's so awful. Like,
do you find doing it changed like your level of like resilience or like your ability to like handle that? Do you think like before you'd be like with the circumstances that you've faced, like even with the moon moving, like do you think that the culture around comedy like hardened you up in a way?
for sure.
Like
And
did that change in you?
yeah, 100%. And like, it's a weird battle because you definitely have to like grow a thicker skin, but also I still do like how sensitive of a guy I am. Like, I'm a very emotional guy, very in touch with my feminine side, right? Like, I'll read a book and be crying and shit. Like, that's who I am. And I felt like comedy was pushing me to change that about myself, because I think that makes you more, yeah, like that resiliency is key to surviving and keep from giving up because of how hard it is. But I didn't ever want that to change who I was as a person. So it was always this like balancing act of like trying to toughen up without like
Losing yourself?
Yeah, without like stay in touch with who you are, of like you're a soft, emotional, like caring person that really like genuinely has so much love in your heart for other people. And that gets you in trouble because I tried to just come into comedy being completely naive, thinking like I came from the school of Joe Rogan, of just like the pie's big enough for all of us. We're all on the same team. Let's work together. Let's create a community. And was pretty gung-ho about that right from the start. And then everyone goes, fuck you, brother. Like, who are you? Get the fuck out of here. You know, like, that's my stage time. Like, we're not building shit. Like, go out, get yours. Fuck everybody. You know, like kind of the Ronin style. And I realized that and I was like, oh, okay. Well, doesn't seem like the community is as accepting to this idea I have, but like, I don't want to give up on it. But that's when I found the moon. And I was like, oh, okay, so the community at large is not really on board for this community-based, supporting each other, growing together, helping each other out thing. But this place is. Trish is. That's what she wants to create. And if we could join forces, we can have at least one slice of this pie that we can grow as big as we can. But within that, that's what you do, right? Like if you want to be, you know, a part of the moon, you kind of got to follow, you know, like it's not like a code of conduct that's written out anywhere, but it's, you know, be kind to people. Don't be unnecessarily shitty. Comedy's hard enough. We don't need to make it harder on each other. We don't need to start rumors. We don't need to, you know, get dirt on people about fucking who cheated on you. Because I could tell you stories about the comedy community and like, it's mutually assured destruction.
Yeah.
Of like, everybody's got dirt on everybody.
Well, it's trauma bonding.
It's trauma bonding, for sure.
Because
but it's
everybody's
so
bombing
unhealthy
and having all these vulnerable situations that then two people link up. They, oh, you had a vulnerable. Oh man, we're at like the perfect spot in life to fall in love, and then they fucking do something, and then the first people they see is a new person, and they're like, I love you so much because we experienced this together.
Oh, it's crazy.
But when you look at those tight knit cultures or like tight knit communities, that's like inherent, and like that's something you almost have to like police in a way, but like also understand it's actually like it's one of these like offshoots of like this is the drainage water of a good thing.
Yeah.
Like this is the shit that gets like drained out. And like I'm not gonna have this product without like filtering it. And this is the fucking goobly gook over here.
The goobly gook.
You have to be like, it's not pleasant and it's horrible to handle, but like that's just part of fucking doing it.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
Yeah.
But you also say too, like, the more, I always say that like the more trauma someone goes through, like the funnier they probably can be, because they have more of a tolerance to like stopping at a certain point where then like the bit gets so like, then it starts to cross people's like, it starts to cross people's like, that's where you're getting like the groans and the because it's like, this was such a sensitive subject to me where I wasn't even able to look past it, where you were able to look past it. And now I have to like, now I'm at this weird spot where I almost have to be like, yeah, that is kind of funny. And it's funny, I never thought about it that way. And like, I never brought myself to like the insecurity or like the level of awareness, right?
For sure. And there's like another added layer that's weird because like there's so much good humor in trauma, but it's a difficult thing to convey. Like sometimes like you'll see, like without choosing any specific examples, there's comics that you can see around Edmonton who have gone through some shit, right? And like sometimes it'll be recent. Like there's comics who have lost a parent and you'll watch them and they'll have some really funny material on it, but they're so close to it that the audience can pick up on of like, oh, you might be able to be like laughing at this, but it's still affecting you. And the room gets a little bit sad. And it's almost like you have to push through that barrier and talk about it enough to where it loses that connection, or like an abusive parent or
like where you talk about the show May 10th, where it's a fundraiser for survivors of sexual assault, and the money is going to get donated. And even Mike, right? He said it like, there's no way to joke about, right? Where it's like, that's just like a line where you kind of, you know, and that's where you get to that point where it's like, yo, you can very quickly like lose all your respect as a comic if you start going in and throwing fucking haymakers.
For sure. And like those things are always difficult, like an actual show center. Like more what I was speaking to was like a comic's personal trials and tribulations and going and trying to take those to the stage, because oftentimes there's some really unique, really like gold humor inside of that. But it's almost this, a lot of people will give up on it because they'll go try and take it to the stage and it doesn't work how they want it. But it's like
to the edge.
Yeah, and to me, I always tell them, keep going. That's really funny. It's just we can still tell that you're hung up on it. But the more you talk about it and the more you can find the funny in it on stage, it will lose that sting where it's not coming across. But like shows that center around are tough. Like I went and watched when Jasper burned down. They did a
relief fund.
They did like a relief show at the comic strip, and it was so fucking funny to me because it was, I mean, comic strip is my family. I love these people so much, but it was a dog shitly bland like show because it was just doomed from the start of like, it's a sad thing. Everyone loves Jasper. It burnt down, right? Like, but you can use comedy to like get around that, but you have to be clever about it. So this show on May 10th, on May 10th, before the show starts, I'm going to go up and thank everybody for coming, talk about why we're doing it a little bit. And then I'm going to say, you know, but we're talking about it now and we will talk about it at the end of the show. But for the next 90 minutes, we are going to forget all about that. Not because it's something that could ever be forgotten about, because we're trying to have fun. And if we try to do it, that's what this is. We're going to talk about before and after, and it's going to be poignant. And it's going to be important. But for the next 90 minutes, we're just going to laugh and we're going to have fun and we're going to forget about it. And then we will pay homage to it at the end. Right. Whereas this Jasper fundraiser was the complete opposite. It was like, make it sad off the top, you know, like talk about it, all these like show sad pictures of Jasper, and then they'd bring a comic up and they'd have to follow that and try and make it funny. And then the host would go back up, they'd put it on the screen, all these videos of the devastation, all these famous people being like, we love Jasper and stuff, make it super sad and throw another comic into it. It was just, like those things are difficult to do. But if done right, you can navigate through it. But I just think for the actual like specific comedians' traumas, that's oftentimes where the best comedy is. But oftentimes you have to go through a little bit of shit, because if it's still like affecting you, that will come across to a crowd, right? Like if your dog dies and you try and go do a bit about it the next week, you're gonna fucking bomb, brother. Like there's nothing funny enough you can think of to say that is gonna overcome the natural sadness that you'll be carrying with you up onto that stage, that is gonna be passed into the crowd. Right. Like
you almost have to be like like at that level, you'd have to be like a sociopath
to do it immediately, right? Like you can come to terms with something like there's amazing,
and then make it a joke a year or maybe even months later. But like I think that's hard for any human to be able to do, because it's like now you're kind of like you're at war with like your own feelings and like the way you want to like discuss it. But then you're trying to like almost force it
Yeah, and
to a
that's something
funny.
that comes with like it comes with time too. Like I saw a comic named Annie Letterman, super funny comic. One of like my favorite comics out of LA. I was really excited she was coming to the strip. I was excited to see her, and she was doing some jokes. She just lost her dad about 3 months ago, and she was talking about it on stage. And she's such a good comedian. She was able to navigate that where she was talking about sad things, but like it wasn't affecting the material. It was adding to it. She had her dad's ashes in a little cup that she would like was rattling her into the microphone and stuff, like brought it, like was so able to be okay with it and make the room understand that she is okay with it and she is okay to joke about it. And it wasn't like insensitive. It was perfect. It was honestly like, it's so weird after shows because I'm a very genuine person. Like I wanted to like stop her on her way out and be like, no, like I need to steal you for like 15 minutes just for me to convey how amazing I thought that was. But like that weirds comics out. Comics don't do good with
Should have told the
compliments.
audience I taxidermied him. He's in the back.
Yeah, there you go. You could try it. You could try it.
Oh, I wanted my father to see the show. He's in the back.
He's in the
I
back.
had
It's
him propped
taxidermy.
up. Tiffany, what is it? Fucking breakfast at Tiffany's or whatever.
Weekend at Bernie's.
Weekend at Bernie's.
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Same. Whatever.
Breakfast at Bernie's.
Breakfast at Bernie's. But yeah, that's hard. It's hard to live like your life and then also be able to portray that in a way that's like funny without sacrificing like your own, like whether it be morals or like whether it be like any guardrails you have up. And like you said, some people are really good about it. They stick to their bits. And then other people are more like lax with the rules of like how I should actually like portray this, and I'll go up and I'll be funny and this and that. And some people it's like straight business.
Yeah.
Where it's very, very interesting. But yeah, comedy is such a strange world.
Very strange.
And getting to the end of our interview, I want to say I'm super grateful that you came on again. I think
Hey, thanks for having me.
I think the conversation,
I wanted redemption because I until I came, like I feel like I had flashbacks. I forgot this, but like I wasn't feeling good that first day. I was like,
right.
I don't know what was going on. I don't know if I was actually sick. Like I think I was just getting like I had, you know, when like you're getting sick but you haven't realized it yet and it kind of hits you
like in a fog.
Yeah, I was in a fog, so I wasn't my best self. I remember you being like, oh, like I'll send you some clips after, and I just was like, I was so dog shit. Like I feel like I didn't even say anything on the first one. So I was excited to get back. I was honestly super excited that you came and saw the show at the Moon because like, you know, we can have a conversation. We both do podcasts. We can talk for hours about anything, right? But like I knew it would give us so much more to talk about once you had actually seen. Because it's one thing to tell a guy about, oh, I do this crazy show in this weed warehouse.
To put it in like perspective, it definitely helped. And it definitely like brought so much more to light in terms of like the world of comedy and even just like the scene of like people up and coming and like trying to like get things moving and like seeing all the different styles of comics. I'm going to be showing up to that May 10th show.
Come out. It's going to be a good show.
What else do you got on the go? Like for you as a host and showrunner, so I want the 2-part question for the audience. Fuck off. 2-part question. As a host and showrunner, what are your plans with that? But personally as a comic, what are goals that you have that are strictly related to like your journey as a stand-up comic outside of the business of comedy?
Yeah, so I think I'd have to break it down one step further because show running and hosting are two different things.
Right.
Like, show running, the big things right now is trying to get the Moon because of the move. We're now in a bigger space. We have to treat it where it was a small arts collective. Our overhead was a lot lower. Now it is a bunch more. We built this podcast studio into it. We can seat way more people. We have the ability to bring in bigger comics. And that's like one of the big things we're trying to do is trying to make connections with the great comics across Canada. I just went out to Toronto a few months ago and spent 2 weeks out there and got to meet all these funny comics and trying to tell them, come through Edmonton. We will put on really amazing shows where it's not just, you know, you rent a bar and they don't really give a fuck and you can make it good if you're good. Like we will care about the seating, the lighting, the sound, the production. We will bring you a great show. So like show running wise, it's to keep putting on and elevating the shows that we already started at the old place in terms of like the Asylum, Gen Pop, Panopticon, the workshops, just the random open mics we'll throw on every once in a while, not to mention things like the Sunday show that I'm very involved with, and any of the one-off shows, the Danger Cat shows they did. Sterling just brought a show through, Silly Guy Club, another amazing show we do there. That's where my main focus is. And then also I run some shows at the comic strip, which is very fun. I really enjoy putting it. It's just a different vibe. It's certain people won't come to the Moon because they don't like the smoke, which is very fair. So I do like to do shows there. So that on the show running side is just keep putting on bigger shows. As a host, just keep getting better at it, I guess. It's something that I uniquely enjoy. A lot of comics don't like hosting. It's very different from stand-up. It takes a different type of person to want to host and to want to excel at hosting. I am that kind of person, so I really enjoy it. I want to keep learning these lessons, keep bettering my instincts so that when weird, crazy shit happens, you know, a waitress drops a plate of drinks, someone passes out at the table, that you are unshakable as a host no matter what happens in that room. You can navigate it and set up the comics that are on that show to succeed in the best way that they can. That's the hosting. And then just comedically as stand-up, I'm in a really tough spot right now. I feel like I'm at a point where I'm trying to navigate what the best way forward is, because I've done a lot in Edmonton and it might be time for a move. I also have a long-distance girlfriend that lived in Edmonton for a while but now lives in New York. And
the comedy mecca.
Exactly. And to be closer to them, like, you know, I don't know if what's best. I'm honestly been really struggling the last few weeks about what is the best next move, because there's so many things I love in Edmonton, but probably, if I'm honest with myself, the next thing would be to move to a bigger place like Toronto, or, you know, you can't get the visa to get down to the States, but if I could, I'd go tomorrow, right? Like, so I guess it's just trying to navigate that and try and figure out what the next best steps are of, you know, should I move? Should I stay and keep working things here? But it's kind of always the same from when you start comedy. It's how can I get up on stage as much as possible, and how can I stay as true to myself and genuine to myself to be using that stage time to be getting better at comedy in the way that I want to, not being affected by other people or other influences, and just like trying to remain true. And then also just podcasting. When I started stand up, my podcast really took a back seat, right? Like I've done, you know, hundreds of episodes. I've done, you know, probably thousands of hours of podcasting, but it really took a back seat. Now trying to ramp back up into it and dealing with all the stuff you said off the top of, you know, scheduling and editing and all those things along with stand up. That's kind of been my
it seems like you're spinning like a plate on every finger.
For sure. That's how it feels.
Know what I mean?
That's
like,
how it feels. Yeah.
And
then trying to navigate a relationship, doing long distance.
There's only so much time, right? And the thing is too, like you're gonna come to figure out like you simply just have to put it on like a priority. Like everything right now is priority number one. But then as time goes on, you start to be like, okay, well, this is actually, it's just as important, but just marginally not as important as and this is marginally important. And instead of it being like ascending this way, it's like ascending like this way. You know what I mean? It's just, they're all so important, but it's just like a game of inches now like, I still have to do a lot of work, but I just have to give that little bump here. Right. And that's tough. Right. Because like for me, it's more like work related podcast and like personal life where it's like, okay, how do I get the same level of quality out without sacrificing like good interactions with my fiance, without taking too much time out of my day job? And like for a while you're just doing this where it's like the levels are just changing, where it's like, okay, I'm doing really good at work and I'm doing really good at podcasting, but I'm fighting with my woman every fucking day. Right. But yeah, it's tough, man. I don't envy that position for anybody, because juggling multiple things, especially if you're passionate about everything, is like the most difficult part, because it's like you almost feel like you're selling your soul. Like I feel like I'm leaving something on the table everywhere I go. Like every time I decide to like relinquish something, I'm like, fuck, man. But if I did it, I would do so well at it. And I'm so mad at myself that like I had a family event and I can't like record an episode with this dude, or I'm not willing to go here. And you're like, fuck, but if I did, man. And then you're just like, you know, but that's life, man. That's life. It's a tough fucking road.
And I'll figure it out. And like, there's so many things to be excited about. Like that's been an
the fact that you have options is the best part about
and none of them are bad options, right? If I stay here and keep putting effort towards, you know, the shows at the Moon and the comic strip, like that's all good things. If I did decide to move and to go pursue, like I had a great time. I went for 2 weeks out in Toronto, got to do all these shows, met super funny people, really enjoyed my time there. And regardless, I'll be going out there more. But it's just, you know, I have a lot of people that I respect in my life that are kind of telling me all the benefits that would come with making that a full-time move and all that. So, but navigating, and we got tons of stuff. So yeah, May 10th, this probably won't be out by May 10th, but we're doing an awesome fundraiser show at the comic strip. We're trying to raise some money. That's going to be great. May 22nd, we have our next Asylum Gen Pop Panopticon night. That's what you got to come see. Those are always fun shows.
It Elysium.
Elysium, right? That's a pretty good name, too.
Like, I don't know why every time I read it, but I'm an idiot.
Trish's Asylum, baby.
I was like, why do they call it Elysium? And I was like, oh, it's Asylum.
And then, so May 22nd is the next one. Then June 26th is the next one after that. Those will both be awesome. And then pretty much you can see me at the Moon all the time. I'm always, or if you follow me on Instagram, Nick VonDub, I'm always posting about what shows I'm on. I'm doing some road work coming up. That's going to be really fun.
Any exciting podcasts?
I have a bunch banked. I did one with a girl named Nikki Hallow. She is an improv artist, sketch artist, theatrical actor, does TV shows, just a rock star of a lady. And we did like a 4.5-hour podcast. I'm working with the guy who helped me produce it to get the files. And once I get the files, I'll be putting that one out. Did one with Just Jordan. Have you ever had him on? You should have Just Jordan on. He's super unique cat, musical artist, and he's killing it with YouTube doing like reaction videos. I think he just got his 100,000 subscriber plaque from YouTube. Wow. He's killing it, and just great. Like he's got a great soul. He's super positive, great to be around, super inspiring. I think you'd really get along with him, and he loves doing podcasts. He's done podcasts and stuff. He'd be a great guy to reach out to. Again, I have one in the can with him that I haven't released. Just released one with Mike the other day. I think I had.
What's your archetype for like a guest? Like, do you have like a criteria in mind? Like when you look at it, or is it like I'm solely looking to have comics on, or is it like creatives? Like what? Or
anyone
is it just
that interests
something
me.
That like tickles your fancy?
Anything that tickles my fancy, bro.
Yeah.
Like I've had
facts.
I've had doctors, I've had athletes, had fighters, I had ex-NHL players, authors, people in the medical industry. Had someone on that worked for the one of my favorite, like, this episode was years and years ago, but I had someone on from like, they worked with dementia patients. And it was a fascinating conversation about like the effects that can have on families. Just more of like a awareness thing, right, for people. But it was really good, right? And anything like that. I found since I've started comedy, the podcast end up being, it has been more comedians, but that's not. It's just because that's the world. It's who I'm in the rooms with, right? It's who it's easy to ask to have on. I'm having on. I think next week I'm having on Henry Sir. He's an awesome comic with like a really interesting story. I'm really excited about that one. And just more to come. I'll have to get you over there, sit you down.
100%. How do you think your experience with comedy has changed how you like portray yourself as an interviewer? And like, is there times where you have to like almost remove a part of yourself? Like, because maybe you're talking to someone about dementia awareness. It's like, okay,
don't make jokes.
What's my theme of this? How serious am I trying to make it? Am I schmoozing the guest? But like, I always try to like give who I'm going to give on air
Mm-hmm.
when I'm outside and
Yeah.
when I see them, I'm
Yeah.
fucking around with them.
Mhm.
So then when they know when I'm going to ask a question, there might be a curveball or two.
Yeah.
I'm not here to like, this isn't like you know,
This is in 60 minutes.
yeah, like I'm not trying to like, you know, like
Yeah.
right, but that was something that I had to
Learn.
like, or even just be willing to like look at and say like, okay, I could have done a better job being more serious, or I could have done I could have been lighter, right?
Yeah.
And I could have been more like agreeable and funny, where like, now is that like a thing that you, but yours is unique because like you're kind of like in two different boxes here, where it's like,
yeah, I can be serious and have like a real conversation. And honestly, that's probably like with my close friends, I'm super silly. I'm a goofball, right? And it comes out in moments, but like most of the time, you know, like I like to have real conversations and like deep conversations. That's my favorite thing. I love talking about emotions and like what people have been through and that kind of thing. I find doing stand up, it did change me, but not exactly in the ways like you were saying. Like the biggest thing I think that happened was when I was podcasting, I was coming at it. I had like this unshakable belief in myself of like, I'm going to be a great podcaster. I'm going to have on all the people I want one day. Like I am going to do this stuff. Like it just was within me. I was extremely confident, like try not to be cocky, but like a very big belief in myself that allowed me to come on and believe that I had something to say and not second guess myself if I'm going to, you know, go way out over my skis on some really deep topic that I'm kind of, you know, hadn't thought about before, but was giving myself the benefit of the doubt that I'm going to navigate it with love and kindness. And even if I fuck up, I'll be able to stand behind it because I know what I was trying to convey. And then when I started stand up is such a humbling mind fuck where I feel like it has affected my mental health to such a degree that I've almost lost touch with that person I was back when I was just strictly a podcaster, that of just like, nothing's going to stop me. I am going to be the best at this, because you see stand up and it's so hard. It's like, I want to be great at this, but like,
well, did you ever think to
get,
yourself, like, oh, I'm going to have this doctor on. Are they going to take me seriously? Like I had a doctor on who was like, he just went to Gaza on like a 10-day mission, doing like emergency medicine. And like my initial reaction was like, is this guy even gonna like be on the same plateau as me? Or are we going to be talking at two different levels? I'm going to ask him it's like bringing you on and be like, have you ever fucking bombed before? And it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, could I ask them questions that are actually going to like make the gears turn? Or are they going to go, dude, you're just a guy that works for the government. Like, who the fuck are you to ask me questions?
I never really struggled with that. I always like, if maybe in like asking certain people to be on, but once I got the yes, like I've always been
then it's like
confident.
I get to work.
Yeah. And also too, I think like when I started the podcast, I wasn't a stand-up. I was, you know, a businessman. I was running a very successful business with like a lot of employees. Like I think I walked around differently because just what I did every day, you know, like when you walk into a meeting where you negotiate a $40 million fuel deal, right? With like these really high up people and like, you know, that's just the world you exist in all the time. It wasn't as scary to, you know, hop on with some doctor, you know, like, cause I had credibility. Now I almost forget that I even lived that life. Like I've been doing comedy has been my everything for so long now that like, I know at one point I was like a very successful business person, but I feel like a loser fucking stand up. You know what I mean? And like that has almost like shaken my confidence a little bit. Now I've been struggling as I'm trying to get back into the podcast to reconnect with that person that I know is in there, but has just been humbled through the most humbling thing ever, which is stand up.
It's not okay to say that like you as a person like shifted a bit. Like that's also not like a detriment.
Yeah.
Like
I don't like it though. Like I like personally, it's like I expect better of myself. I know I have been that person and I want to be that person, and I don't like that I've lost touch with it. Like it's not like it's gone completely. I'm still a pretty confident guy. Right. You know, like I came into this, like, I wasn't worried. I wasn't nervous, right? Like, I knew I can sit down.
It's just like the misconceptions of like a specific like path where it's like, okay, if I do stand up, like people immediately don't think I'm making money off this. They immediately
Accurate.
Right? Like that's like the initial, or like you work at a jail. Oh, you must beat the fuck out of inmates.
That's what I assumed.
Right? Like that's like the immediate, or you're a dick, or you're super tough, or you don't like these little tropes that like assign, or like because you're a doctor, you're really smart. There's a lot of stupid fucking doctors.
Oh yeah.
Right? But little things like that, right? Where it's hard to then get out of that and be like, no, I'm actually like without going too far, because you never want to like extend it too much where you're like, you have like a God complex, but you want to have it in a way of like, no, like I'm pretty good at these set of skills. Like I was able to do it before.
Yeah.
But
and that's more of the thing of like, I was podcasting so much that I believed in myself so much. Now I've gotten rusty at it and I know I can do better. So like, I used to be so confident to like ask people to be on because I knew they might say no, but if they do say yes, they are going to get an amazing experience. They're going to have a great time. It's going to be poignant. They're going to be glad that they did it. And now because I'm rusty and I'm jumping into these ones and they're decent podcasts, but I know like the level of podcaster I was at one point when I was doing it 2-3 times a week, every week for years at a time, instead of taking months off, like just shaking that rust off. But there's that momentum of like doing a good podcast. Oh, let's do another one. Like, let's do another one, like getting into that. But then just having the time, because when I was podcasting, that was all I was doing. You can put everything to it. But now stand up is so all encompassing. It's tough to give the podcast the attention it deserves while also navigating this really weird, oftentimes heinous world of stand up and trying to support yourself and make money and be successful, because there's not a lot of money in either podcasting or stand-up unless you're at the very height of it.
1%.
Yeah. But I'll get there.
Yeah. And honestly, like, it's funny. I had this guy on named, I forget his name, but his last name was Advent. He has a podcast in Edmonton called the Long Term Podcast. And he talks about basically like ideas or like ideations that are like long term, like someone that has to like persevere, right? And what he said, and it's so like, and I thought about it so much because when he said it to me, I was like, yeah, like fuck off. But he's like, well, who's gonna replace Joe Rogan? Who's gonna replace Wednesday Morning with Bill Burr? Who's gonna replace Skankfest? Like someone has to.
Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
Monday morning.
I got
you.
Yeah.
Thursday afternoon sometimes.
Right. But he said it in a way of
like, no, for sure.
Like,
not to believe the point, But
like someone has to then like backfill.
For sure.
And he's like, you can say like you won't, but he's like, someone's gonna like replace that.
Yeah.
So you need to decide like
who's gonna be the next Bill Cosby? Someone's got to do it.
Before or after.
Might have to be me.
Right? Get better at that at 3-point, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
3-point from the line.
The line.
But this has been a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, dude.
I'm so excited for what you got coming up with the Moon. For anybody that is interested, the Moon YEG.
The Moon YEG on Instagram. That's the only place you can find us. We're not on Google. If you Google us, you won't find us. The only place to find us. It's a private account on Instagram.
Request.
It's the Moon YEG, no spaces, no dots. And it's just like a little moon icon. If you follow that, you'll see all the shows that we put on there. And if you follow me, Nick VonDub, you'll find all of my stuff. The VonDub Cast is the podcast. Also, Oilers Uncensored, it's another podcast I have, but it's all under the same feed. If you type in the VonDub Cast, you'll find everything. And plenty more good shit to come. May 22nd, June 26th, the next two asylums. If this is out in time, May 10th at the comic strip is going to be an awesome show as well.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. For everybody watching, thanks for sticking around. We ripped out a long one here.
How long did we go?
I think we're almost at 3 hours.
Fucking A right. Love a good 3-hour pod.
This is popping my over 2-hour cherry.
That's
so exciting. Don't forget, sign up for Spare Bedroom Studios. We got 2 different shows. Joey's shows here or there. But we got 2 different shows: The Conversationalists, Solo Spotlight, Spare Bedroom Studios, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all that. Clips daily, episodes weekly. And thank you for coming out, and we will see you on the next one.
Bye.